Hey guys, Christian. This is going to be an update video for a video I did previously called What Marvel Phases 5 and 6 Need to Do. And in that video I went through all the upcoming Marvel Phases 5 and 6 movies and gave my thoughts on them. So for this time around I'll be playing that previous video and then chiming in occasionally with all the updates we've gotten from all the upcoming films and TV shows. Since we've gotten so many updates in the past couple weeks, just so that you can stay updated with everything that's going on in the world of Marvel. So without further ado, let's jump in. Thunderbolts. And I think the biggest one is the title itself, Thunderbolts, with little asterisks at the end. And Kevin Feige's being really secretive about that, suggesting that we won't find out until we see the movie. So I guess we'll see how it goes once it's actually released in May. And that's another big update with the movie is that it was supposed to come out in July, but then that got replaced by Fantastic Four, which we'll get to in a second, and got moved up to May. So I think that's cool. We'll get the movie even sooner, and hopefully we'll get our theories answered as to what the little asterisk actually means. People are suggesting that maybe it'll be leading into a Dark Avengers, or it's supposed to be a lead up to a bigger team, or it could just be some kind of inside joke that Kevin Feige and the rest of Marvel Studios has. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that there'll be some significance to it, and that maybe it'll lead into a bigger team or something. I don't think they'll do a Dark Avengers unless maybe that's what Doomsday is going to be about, or even Secret Wars. It's going to be the Dark Avengers versus the New Avengers. They have to battle it out, and then eventually they have to realize that Doctor Doom is actually the big bad, and they have to team up in order to defeat him and everything. But I know we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. But in other news, we found out that a writer named Joanna Kahlo has joined the project in order to rewrite the script. And I know originally it was written by another writer named Lee Sung Jin, who worked with the director Jake Schreier on Beef. So I know that they had a lot of collaboration between them. So it'd be cool to have another writer on board to polish the script a little bit to see how it goes. So I'm wondering if they also had problems in the beginning, kind of like what Captain America Brave New World was having, where Marvel had this obligation to rush all these projects out, and then now that in this year they had time to slow it down, maybe they were editing the project together and they were realizing that stuff wasn't really working. So then they hired Joanna to come on board and just polish things up, make it more in line with continuity that they're trying to establish for the future of the MCU. So I think it's a good choice. Anytime they have time to rewrite or reshoot, make things better, is always a good choice. So yeah, we'll see how it goes with that. And then filming began later in February of this past year and then wrapped in June. Another announcement is that we have a couple of different actors from previous Marvel projects that are coming into the movie. We have Lawrence Fishburne as Bill Foster from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then Rachel Weisz as Melina Vostokov from Black Widow. So I think they're really cool to have those characters within the story, because I know that Bill Foster was really close with Ghost, so it makes sense that he would have some kind of father-daughter relationship there. So it'd be interesting to see how he's brought into story. And of course, Melina was, the fake wife to Alexei and the fake mother to Yelena. So I'm sure she'll have some kind of cool scene involved with them as well. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll see if they're just little cameos or if they'll actually be part of the team in some capacity. But yeah, I'm really excited to see them in the movie as well. But going back to the filming, I know that it was delayed because of the writer's strike that I was talking about earlier. And because things were so delayed, a couple of the actors had to drop out, including Steven Yeun and Ayo Edebiri. And I know that Steven Yeun was cast to play Sentry, but since he dropped out, they had to replace him with Louis Pullman from Top Gun Maverick. So I think that'd be really cool. And the fact that his character in Thunderbolts, his name is Bob, because that was his character's name in Top Gun Maverick. So I think that's a really fun connection that they have there. But yeah, apparently he's supposed to be kind of like a main villain in Thunderbolts. So maybe that's the character that all Thunderbolts are going against. So we'll see how it goes with that. I know Pullman's character was kind of like the nerdy character in Top Gun Maverick. So it'd be cool seeing more of his villain. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And then an actress named Geraldine Wisvanathan is supposed to be playing another character named Mel. And she's supposed to be an assistant to Val's character. And apparently it's supposed to be kind of like comedic role. So, which makes sense because, Julie Louis-Dreyfus has been in so many different comedies over the time. And then she's obviously a very comedic character within all the Marvel movies that she's been in. So I think that'll be really interesting seeing that dynamic. And yeah, speaking of characters, David Harbour was saying in this movie, the relationship between Alexei and Yelena will be explored a little bit more. So I know we got a little bit of that in Black Widow, but it'd be cool to see more development within Thunderbolts, especially since Alexei and Yelena are going to be on the same team and they have to, butt heads and, eventually, come together to fight, Sentry and whoever other villains that they might be facing. So yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'm really excited to see more of that. And then also this past March, we got a video from Florence Pugh, kind of like a behind the scenes video of her showing off the set, showing off her new Black Widow costume, showing the different dailies at Video Village that Jake Schreier was at. And they have this kind of fun dynamic saying oh, I don't know if we should be filming this stuff, but Florence is still just filming it anyway. So I think that's really cool to see, kind of going back to kind of what Black Widow in Avengers Infinity War was wearing, a little bit more of a tactile suit instead of, something that's skin tight and not really practical. So I think that's definitely a good update for that character's costume. And then speaking of which, we also got some more behind the scenes footage this past June at CinemaCon, which hasn't been released till
the public, so I haven't seen it. And then also at San Diego Comic-Con this past July, where they showed like a little sizzle reel of Thunderbolts, which obviously they haven't released to the public, but from what I hear, it's supposed to be very like dark and intense, and definitely focuses on Elena's character dealing with trying to find a purpose in life. All of her life is just about like killing people off and everything, and then she gets talked to by like Alexei, and then we kind of get introduced to these other different characters as well, kind of feeling like they don't belong in the world, and then eventually coming together, finding each other, and then obviously working together to fight whatever evil that they might be facing later on. So yeah, I'm hoping that this will be like a kind of redemption story for these characters, especially John Walker, because he's definitely one of my least favorite characters in Marvel. I love Wyatt Russell, I think he's a great actor, but just all the actions that he's taken are very controversial, especially killing a man with a shield and everything like that. So it'd be good to see the repercussions of those actions within this story, and all these different broken characters, like Bucky and Ghost, and obviously Yelena and Lexi and Taskmaster, and all these different characters coming together, finding redemption and then fighting this evil, kind of like Suicide Squad. I know this is like an answer to DC Suicide Squad, so hopefully they'll get a redemption story and then eventually join the Avengers and then fight in the Secret Wars and everything like that.
And we got a bunch of updates for Thunderbolts. We got little hints of footage for it in the 85th anniversary video released by Marvel, which looks really cool. Definitely shows more cool action and character interactions. And back in September, Sebastian Stan kind of described Bucky Barnes as Jack Nicholson's character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, how he's an individual coming into a chaotic and degenerate group whose members have to find a way to unite, which totally makes sense with the Thunderbolts characters, how they're all kind of coming from disparate situations and storylines that they find themselves in, and they have to kind of find a way to unite against some kind of ultimate threat. And also back in September, Chris Bauer and Wendell Edward Pierce were cast in undisclosed roles, so we'll see what happens with them. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to be some kind of like government agents or something like that, trying to go against the Thunderbolts characters, or maybe they'll become allies for the characters down the line and help them try to clear their names and become heroes. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Hopefully we'll get more casting announcements soon of who they'll be playing. And of course the big news is that we got an official poster, an official trailer for the movie. And we'll just jump in with the poster. It definitely kind of reminds me of like the Sons of Anarchy poster, or like the This Is the End poster with the characters kind of all piled on top of each other and they're all kind of fighting each other and everything. And then you have Yelena in the center kind of going like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Also reminds me of like different posters of like, characters piled on top of each other, like the Inside Out 2 poster, or like the Toy Story 3 poster, or the Hobbit poster. So definitely kind of falls in that tradition. But yeah, definitely gets the tone of what's going on with this movie, of these disparate characters, battling against each other, and there's going to be all this chaos going on. So yeah, definitely gets me more excited for it. And of course the official trailer, which just looks epic and amazing. Yeah, it definitely kind of plays into the footage that was shown at Comic-Con previously of, starts off with Yelena meeting up with Alexei and sets the tone of like with their relationship. Yelena's kind of like broken and, exhausted and, just trying to find connection. And then you have Alexei, just being fat and lazy, trying to, pretend that he's like all busy and everything like that. As soon as he hears a knock on the door, he's like trying to rush, trying to clean up and everything like that. And then them confiding in each other, trying to figure out like their purpose in life, and how Elena's just kind of done with the whole kind of assassination role, and just kind of showing the montage of all the different characters, kind of like low points of their lives. Either they just don't have personal lives, or they're just kind of stuck in a situation that they find themselves in. And this whole movie is kind of like, jump-starting their call to adventure, so to speak, with them being brought into that lockdown room and, kind of interacting with each other, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing here? What's going on? And, them kind of like fighting each other, and then realizing like, wait, we were sent here for a reason. And then of course we get the character of Bob, aka Sentry, just kind of like, in his hospital garb, kind of like, what's going on? Like, hi, I'm Bob. I don't know what's going on here. And obviously there's going to be like some kind of big twist going on in this story of like, I guess this kind of like shadowy government trying to get rid of these rogue heroes. And then I'm guessing they're going to try to push Sentry to be like this kind of like ultimate super villain or something like that, in order to, like wipe out all the heroes and whatnot. And we'll see if he becomes an ally in the end, or if he actually stays an enemy, but we'll see. But yeah, it's really cool seeing like their interaction, all the comedy, all like different one-liners and jabs that they have at each other, both joke-wise and, physically, as they like fight each other and everything like that. But yeah, it just gives me like really excited for this story, and looks really, really fun. And then, it just kind of culminates with the big action sequence at the end of, Red Guardian and John Walker and Yelena and Ava, in the car, being chased by the convoy, and like them trying to get away and everything. And then the convoy truck gets flipped over, and they're like what the heck is going on? And they see like, wait, is that Bucky? And then Bucky's on his motorcycle and like takes it down single-handedly. So yeah, just really cool, really action-packed, really like dark. And yeah, I'm guessing that the little asterisk means that they're going to be the Dark Avengers in the end. I know earlier I had my theories of like what that could be, but it just really looks like they're going to be the new Avengers, the Dark Avengers, and then, you know, Val is going to be kind of like their Nick Fury in a way, kind of like setting up them on missions, the ones that, you know, the government won't let them do. But yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, again, Kevin Feige said that we're not going to get an answer until the movie's actually released, so we'll see what happens. But, you know, I'm guessing that that's going to be like what the little asterisk means, but I guess we'll see. And then, of course, earlier this month, we got a special look for the film from the Brazil D23 Expo, which looks really, really cool. It definitely kind of expands more on kind of like the action scene that we got from the previous trailer, where the heroes are driving on the road and, you know, they're driving away from the convoy, and they're like the comedy bits of like Red Guardian trying to step on the gas and then it only goes like 43 miles an hour, 44 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour. And then the guys are just like, come on, can you make it go faster? And Red Guardian's like, I'm trying my hardest. And then, you know, we get the whole expansion on the action sequences of like Bucky actually taking down the convoy and then firing that weapon that attaches to the car to like stop it. So I'm sure Bucky's gonna kind of be the main hero of this story. And then, you know, the other ones are gonna be kind of more like the anti-heroes. And then, of course, Bucky's probably gonna have a turn in the end and then actually team up with the anti-heroes and then become the Thunderbolts. And then, you know, with Val kind of like overseeing the operations. And then I'm sure like Sentry is going to be kind of like the main villain that they have to team up against. You know, we kind of got a couple shots of Sentry exiting compound and he has like bullet holes all in his shirt. So I'm pretty sure he's going to become some kind of like superhuman that they have to go against. Maybe the government tried to have him be kind of like their savior in a way, but then, you know, things go wrong and then he kind of goes off the map and then they can't call the Avengers, so they have to call the Dark Avengers. I mean Thunderbolts asterisks to save the day, kind of like what Suicide Squad was trying to do and then what The Suicide Squad by James Gunn actually succeeded in. So it'd be cool to see how they do that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. And I like the banter at the end that the characters have where Red Guardian's yelling, "We're the Thunderbolts!" And then all the other characters are like, oh yeah, we're not going to call ourselves that. And then we get the closing title where it says Thunderbolts and then kind of cut back to the characters and cut back and it says little asterisk. So again, we'll see what the asterisk is. I still think it's going to be the Dark Avengers, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, everything that they've been showing from this movie, I'm really excited for. Lots of great action, lots of great comedy. I'm sure there's going to be just a lot of great emotion in the story as well. And I'm pretty sure this is going to like help to culminate phase 5 and then set us up for phase 6. But yeah, I'm really excited for this movie. I can't wait to see these characters interacting and all the different banter and everything like that. And then see how they are brought into the larger MCU and yeah, see where they go from there. But yeah, definitely excited for this movie and can't wait to see what happens with it. And we actually got a bunch of updates for Thunderbolts. Back in early December, additional photography took place in Atlanta, which totally makes sense. Usually with these Marvel movies, they always do additional photography after principal photography was wrapped. So I'm pretty sure they're just going back and refilming some scenes, you know, doing some retakes, maybe shooting some additional scenes just to kind of cover the scenes that they missed or explain more information. So yeah, totally normal part of the process. I'm sure it's not anything to do with like the production being bad or anything. It's probably just to add little clips of information just to smooth things over with the final film. And speaking of which, we actually got a brand new trailer for the Super Bowl, which looks incredible. And we got a better reveal of Bob/Sentry. And a lot of commentators are saying that the Thunderbolts characters will actually be fighting against Bob's alter ego called Void. So that would be really interesting. It's really cool that they kept showing all these clips of Sentry's power and how he's using his abilities to like murder people. They have that scene where the people are like running away and then suddenly they're just being flattened on the ground like a shadow or something. So I think that's really cool. Now I'm not really too familiar with the character of Void, but you know, just seeing what he's doing in the trailer just looks like he's really powerful and really dangerous and just makes me wonder like how the Thunderbolts are actually going to confront him and defeat him potentially. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, especially since the characters don't really have superpowers. You know, it's really more like a human team with enhanced abilities. They just show a couple clips of Bucky with his arm, you know, like a car flying toward him, he uses his arm to like have it bounce off of him. And I know like John Walker has his shield and Taskmaster is able to like copy different moves and like Ghost still has her transparent abilities and stuff like that. But this will definitely be a huge task for the Thunderbolts characters and it'll be interesting to see like how they eventually come together to defeat him. So yeah, it definitely just gets me more excited for the movie. And speaking of the characters, we got a lot more fun character moments. You know, I love the moment where Red Guardian is talking about, we will one day be on the Wheaties box and have our own little kitty toy. I thought that was really funny. And then it was funny that the marketing team actually made a poster with the characters on the Wheaties box. But yeah, I'm definitely really excited to see David Harbour as Red Guardian, and it looks like they're giving him a lot of like great lines and a lot of like comedic moments, and it looks like he's gonna kind of be the glue that kind of keeps his team together, because it seems like all the characters are really like dark and just want to do their own thing, but Red Guardian's kind of like bring the team together, and kind of like what I was saying earlier, he's like, we're the Thunderbolts, and Bucky being like, yeah, we're not calling ourselves that, and then John Walker's like, oh thank goodness. So kind of like what I've been saying before, like it's really cool that we're getting a balance of like, you know, dark and intense moments, but also with like these funny lighter character moments, and I'm sure it's going to blend really well and just gets me even more excited for it. And we also got an international poster with little asterisks on it, and then the little asterisks indicated that the Avengers are not available. So I think that's really telling. I know there's been a lot of theories about what the asterisk means, what I was saying earlier, and how this team might be potentially the Dark Avengers, especially with the little clip in the trailer of the Avengers Tower. Kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but there's reports that Valentina was the one who bought Avengers Tower, and now the Thunderbolts characters are kind of stationed there as their headquarters to make their plans to eventually fight Sentry. So I think that's really interesting. But yet again, we have no idea what the asterisk means, and like I was saying before, we're probably just going to find out once the movie actually comes out. But I think a lot of people are really speculating that they might become the Dark Avengers, especially since at this point we have no idea who the Avengers are. So to have a team that's already kind of assembled within the MCU, I mean, I'm sure they're not going to be like the front runners within Doomsday and Secret Wars, but just to have like a team that's already assembled, and for the time being, before we get to Doomsday and Secret Wars, is probably the best bet for the MCU. And maybe, Captain America and the new Falcon will team up with them, and then they'll start to form the new Avengers in a way based on Thunderbolts team, because I'm sure they're going to defeat Sentry somehow, and then, gain the respect of the larger MCU and help out to form the new Avengers to fight Doctor Doom and Secret Wars and Doomsday. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then we also got more character information. Back in February, Florence Pugh said that her character of Yelena has been affected by traumatic moments within the MCU, which totally makes sense, just based on everything that she went through in Black Widow and in Hawkeye, overall, like losing Natasha during the events of Endgame, and then thinking that it was Hawkeye who murdered her, and then kind of going through the whole character arc of like wanting revenge on him, and then realizing that it was just a misunderstanding, that he was innocent, and then just trying to find her place in the world and find her purpose. So it's totally understandable how we see in the trailers how she's feeling like she doesn't have a purpose in life, like all she does is like kill people, and she doesn't have like that empathy and that grounding that she had when Natasha was alive. So I'm glad that we're getting a sort of reconciliation with Alexei, and I know we're going to get appearances by her adopted mother, so I think that'll be really cool. And again, just based on the trailer, it just looks like Red Guardian's definitely going to be that kind of like father figure that she needs, and kind of like that father figure that the rest of the team needs to pick themselves up and fight Sentry and gain the respect of the larger MCU. Also back in February, we also got an update with Bucky Barnes, and apparently he's going to be elected as a member of the US Congress, so that'd be really interesting. I know we got those scenes in the trailer of him kind of in the council room while Val is kind of explaining how the world needs the Avengers again, and how they're not coming, and how they need a new team in place. And he was dressed up in the suit and everything like that, looking very serious. So it'd be interesting to see like how he kind of becomes a hero within the US Congress, and then how slowly but surely he kind of has to take the suit off and then put the metal arm back on, and get back into the fight to fight all these different threats and everything. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that. And like I was saying earlier, it seems like he's gonna kind of be like the reluctant hero. He's gonna be like the most, I guess, sane one out of all of them. Obviously he was a murderer beforehand, but he's been reconditioned to the events of Black Panther and Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's like back to normal now. He's been through his trauma, and now he's back to being the normal Bucky Barnes, and trying to be as good of a person as possible. So I'm sure that's the reason why he wanted to join the US Congress and kind of redeem himself in a way. And he's kind of being like the babysitter to all these Thunderbolts characters who are like current assassins and are still kind of mentally unstable and everything. So I'm glad that he's gonna kind of be like the firm foundation that the Thunderbolts characters need to stay stable and work together as a team. So I'm really excited to see that for sure. And then also back in February, it was reported that Sentry is going to be a superpowered individual who suffers from amnesia. So it totally makes sense, just based on that trailer that we got, several months ago, where the Thunderbolts characters are brought into the room, and then they meet Bob for the first time, and he's kind of like, oh no, I'm Bob, I don't know what's going on. So it'd be interesting to see, like, maybe he's kind of like a sleeper agent character, where at first he doesn't really know who he is, like how he got into the situation, and then this kind of like shady government that we haven't seen yet in any of the trailers kind of activates him, and all his memories start flooding back in, and then he becomes kind of like the malevolent alter ego Void. And maybe during the ending, the Thunderbolts characters are able to kind of like switch off that programming within him, and then he becomes Bob again, and maybe he becomes like a hero for the MCU. So that'd be interesting. And then they work together with Sentry to wipe out that shady government who activated him in the first place. So it'll be interesting, because he's a very powerful character, and it'd be kind of a shame if they just kind of like killed him off at the end of this movie. But I think it'd be more interesting if they kind of redeemed his character, and he was actually someone who fights alongside Thunderbolts and fights alongside the other MCU characters to fight within Doomsday and Secret Wars. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then also in February, we got confirmation that Wendell Edward Pierce will be playing a public figure, and we saw his character in the trailer. He was actually on the board during that whole trial scene where Val is explaining to the whole council about how the Avengers aren't here and how we need new heroes. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what role he plays. Like, is it going to be a small role? Is it going to have like a larger role within the movie? But I'm pretty sure it's kind of like going to be like a
slightly smaller role. He'll probably be peppered in throughout the movie, and he'll probably be sort of like an antagonistic role to Val, always trying to, put her down and kind of cast doubt within the abilities of the Thunderbolts team. Kind of like the council members in like the first Avengers movie. They're always casting doubt on Nick Fury and the fact that he wants to use the Avengers to, stop Loki and everything. So he's probably gonna have a similar role to that. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, we didn't really get too much of him in the trailer, so I'm guessing he won't have too much of a big role. But yeah, we'll see what happens when the movie comes out. And then earlier this month, Jake Shar compared the character dynamics to several different movies, including Reservoir Dogs, Ronin, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And he said those movies include characters who are mismatched, who are forced to work together. And I haven't seen Ronin, but I've seen Reservoir Dogs and I've seen Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. I can definitely see the comparisons with the Thunderbolts characters, especially like Reservoir Dogs, these characters who should not be together at all, who only have their own self-interest, who are forced to work together and things go wrong. And then, different like allegiances are made and like different like plot twists are made, and you get to know more about the backstory of the characters. So I can definitely see the Thunderbolts characters going through that, but hopefully there'll be a slightly happier ending than in Reservoir Dogs. And then as far as like Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, again, it has several characters who should not be working together, who are forced to come together to face the impossible mission. And then slowly but surely they start to form trust and friendships and kind of go through trials and tribulations and then, eventually come out on top. So yeah, it definitely gets me excited. I'll definitely have to see Ronin just to see the different dynamics in that. But as far as like Reservoir Dogs and Mission Impossible, yeah, I can definitely see the comparison with that. And yeah, it just makes me more excited for what the Thunderbolts characters are going through, especially with everything we're seeing with them in the trailers. It just looks like it's just gonna be a lot of chaos at first, and then slowly but surely they're gonna come together. I like the music that they played, towards the end of the trailer. Nothing's gonna stop us now. That was a really fun song that they played during it. Like definitely represents what the Thunderbolts characters are going through within this movie. So yeah, it definitely gets me more excited. And surprisingly, he made kind of like a less likely comparison to the movie Toy Story 3, where he said that the Thunderbolts characters are kind of going through what the characters in Toy Story 3 are going through with obsolescence. And as we saw in the trailers, a lot of the characters feel like they don't have a purpose and feel like they're, obsolete. And, as the story goes on, they start to find their purpose and they start to, find purpose in each other and then purpose in this kind of greater mission that they're facing. So I think that was an interesting comparison. He said it was like a less likely comparison, but I can definitely see, the similarities between Thunderbolts and Toy Story 3. And then finally, earlier this month, Letterboxd debuted a trailer that was sort of in an A24-esque style, which I thought was hilarious. And then during like all the different descriptions within the trailer, it was showing like how all the cast and crew members were part of like all these independent A24 movies. So I'm sure it's in a way of trying to get like the independent A24 crowd to see Thunderbolts, and we'll see how much they're convinced to actually see the movie. But I think it was really funny that they kind of did this sort of like marketing ploy in order to kind of get that indie crowd. It's like writer director of Beef and like the stars of You Hurt My Feelings and cinematographer of Green Knight and like the production designer of like Hereditary and like the editor of Minari and the composers of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it just ends with like the names of all the characters and like the different funny moments that they have throughout the movie. So again, like they didn't really need to have more trailers to convince me to watch this movie. Like I'm already super excited for it, but the fact that they are going the extra mile to get like the independent A24 crowd into the movie, like I thought was really fun. So yeah, it's like I keep saying before, I'm definitely excited for this movie, and yeah, I just can't wait to see what happens on May 2nd. All right, now we move on to Ironheart, and the official synopsis has been released. It's supposed to be about Riri Williams coming back to Chicago and then discovering dangerous threads that can bring danger and adventure. So I'm sure it's going to be more about the conflict that Riri has with Anthony Ramos' characters, The Hood. It's supposed to be about science versus magic, butting heads and whatnot. So I think that could be really cool to explore. And yeah, speaking of which, we got more casting announcements. Alden Ehrenreich as Joe McGillicuddy, Lyric Ross as Natalie Washington, and she's supposed to be Riri's best friend, Matthew Elam as Xavier Washington, Angie White as Ronnie Williams, who's Riri's mother, Manny Montana as Cousin John, and Shay Cooley as Slug. And we also have Cree Summer and Sacha Baron Cohen in undisclosed roles, but there's rumors that Sacha Baron Cohen might be actually playing Mephisto, and maybe he'll be like a dark mentor to Anthony Ramos' character. So we'll see how that goes. I know that Mephisto's been teased since, WandaVision, with like people thinking that he's going to pop up ever since then. So it'd be really funny if Marvel actually finally put him within the MCU, in a live action series. So we'll see how it goes with that and if he actually ends up being Mephisto. But yeah, hopefully he is. But I'm not super familiar with the character, so I'm not like super excited, or I don't think I'll be super disappointed if he wasn't in it. But I think it'd be really cool to have that tie-in for the people who really are excited to see him. And then back in January of this year, Dominic Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, said that filming's been officially completed and that additional photography happened between February and April this past year. Again, I think that's really good. I know the show is supposed to come out way back in the day, but it's been kind of like pushed further and further down the schedule. It's supposed to come out sometime in 2025. So we'll see how that goes. But again, like I was saying earlier, anytime that Marvel has time to like breathe with productions and have time to like rewrite scripts or refilm scenes, I think is a good idea. TGS. So yeah, I definitely think that's good. And then in March of this year, Brad Winterbaum said that editing has begun. So I'm glad that it's finally in post-production, and that another show called Wonder Man is supposed to be editing as well. And again, I'm not familiar with Wonder Man as much, but I know it's going to be part of like the Marvel Television banner, and not within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's going to be kind of more of its own thing. So I think that'd be really cool. The actor who played Black Manta in Aquaman is supposed to be in that show, so I think that'd be really cool. So we'll see how that goes with that. But anyway, back to Ironheart. Dominique Thorne and Anthony Ramos presented the show at the Disney Upfronts back in May and confirmed that it'll be coming out in 2025. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for Ironheart. We haven't really seen too much of it, so I can't really get super excited, but I really liked her character in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, so I'm really excited to see a show centered around her. It's supposed to be 6 episodes, so it won't be too much of a commitment to watch, for people who, didn't respond to her character or didn't respond to the movie. But yeah, I'm excited to see more with her and excited to see her more within the Marvel Cinematic Universe once we get to Doomsday and Secret Wars. We also got some new updates for Ironheart with the D23 Expo, and apparently footage was shown, which people are describing it as kind of like a crime thriller. It's supposed to be about Riri Williams and how she was actually kicked out of MIT, probably because of all the controversy she has about being this kind of new Iron Man, so to speak, at the end of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and probably all the tension that comes with that. And then she's kind of like at a loss for everything. She's kind of independently funding her own projects and she's not getting money from MIT, and she's trying to find different ways in order to be the person she wants to be. So apparently she's supposed to be teaming up with Anthony Ramos's character, the Hood, and they're going to have somewhat of an alliance, and I'm sure the Hood's going to have like some kind of like darker motivations in order to bring Riri over to the dark side, and then Riri's going to have to somehow fight that, and then that's where their conflict's going to collide. So I'm really excited for that. And then I guess a couple images were shown as well, but yeah, I'm pretty excited for Ironheart. I know like not everyone's excited for it, but like I said before, I liked Riri's character in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, so it'd be cool to see her own series. And again, it's only 6 episodes, so people don't have to commit too much with it. But yeah, I'm excited for the show, and hopefully we'll get a trailer soon so I can get more of an opinion on it, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. And we got a couple updates for Ironheart. Like I said before, we got a couple more bits of footage from the 85th anniversary video for Marvel and for the Disney Plus Look Ahead video. Definitely got more clips that were hinted back in the D23 Expo footage of Riri trying to build something undeniable, and then we definitely got a lot more footage of her in her Ironheart suit, which looks really cool. We got more hints of Anthony Ramos as the Hood, and definitely more hints of the team up that they're going to be having, of Riri trying to find more ways to build this machinery, but obviously she doesn't have the funds to do it, so she's going to have to team up with the Hood in order to find ways to get the funds in order to build this machinery. And Parker Robbins kind of hinting at like, oh, in order to do that, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things. So yeah, definitely hinting at not only like the alliance that they'll be having, but also like the tension and the potential battle they'll have to be facing towards the end. But yeah, we didn't get like too much footage. We definitely got a lot of clips of her in her suit flying around, going like, let's go, and all this stuff. From what we got, it looks like really, really fun, really, really interesting. And we also got confirmation that's supposed to come out on June 24th of 2025. So yeah, that totally makes sense. I know a little while ago it was hinted that it was supposed to come out in September, which would kind of interfere with Phase 6, because I know like the first film for Phase 6 is Fantastic Four First Steps, which is supposed to come out in July. So to have those things overlap would be kind of confusing. So it definitely makes more sense that this is supposed to come out in June of 2025 and that Fantastic Four is supposed to come out in July of 2025. And since there's only supposed to be about 6 episodes, it should start to wrap up before Fantastic Four First Steps comes out. So that'll be a good wrap up for Marvel Phase 5 and then set us up perfectly for Marvel Phase 6. So yeah, overall, I'm still excited for Ironheart. I'm not like crazy excited for it, not like, a couple other shows and movies for Marvel Phase 5. But I think it could still be fun. Again, just a simple one and done story, picking up storylines that we left off with Black Panther Wakanda Forever as far as Riri's story, and then setting her up for her kind of larger debut within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, from what I see, it looks really fun, really cool, and I'm still excited for it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, now we move on to Fantastic Four First Steps. And we have a bunch of news that came out with this one. Obviously, we'll just jump right into the title, Fantastic Four First Steps, which is supposed to be about space exploration and about, positivity and like a throwback to the 1960s, because with this movie, it's supposed to take place within like an alternate version of the 1960s. It's not like our 1960s, because I know they've had promotional videos and promotional photos of like alternate takes on, the New York skyline and everything. They had that first official photo where they announced the cast with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm / The Thing. So I think those actors are amazing. We got that picture that was posted on Valentine's Day with the actors illustrated as the characters and the different kind of alternate version of the 1960s. And then we got those hints of, the Thing reading like the Life magazine with Lyndon B. Johnson on it, and like that picture of like Neil Armstrong in the background, and then the Herbie robot that was in the corner area. So yeah, they're definitely leaning more into like the 1960s version, and it's definitely been confirmed by the director Matt Shackman and by Kevin Feige that's supposed to be an alternate 1960s. And then of course we got the Comic-Con presentation of the pre-release footage of all the different actors, in character in their spacesuits, and then the clip of Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards on this science show with all these bored kids and everything watching him. We got another clip of Sue Storm talking about Johnny Storm about, oh yeah, he's really single, ladies, like go after him, which is really funny. And then we got another clip of Ben Grimm on a fake TV show called Let's Make a Date. You can see his silhouette and everything as the Thing, so I think that's really cool. And then, them going up into space, and then we get a really cool shot of like Galactus, his eyes looking through a building. And then, yeah, speaking of more casting announcements, in April this past year, it was announced that Julia Gardner will be playing Shala Ball / Silver Surfer. So I think that's really cool seeing like a female version of Silver Surfer, since we got the male version in the Fantastic Four Rise of Silver Surfer way back in the day. So it'll be cool seeing more of like a female version of it. And she's supposed to be a lover of the original Silver Surfer, so we'll see if they stick with that storyline. And then in May, it was announced that Ralph Ineson will be playing Galactus, which is really cool. I've seen him in a couple fantasy things, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. I think he's a really intimidating actor. I know they were originally trying to have Javier Bardem play Galactus, which I think would have been really cool, but I know he had a lot of scheduling conflicts, so he had to drop out. So they got Ralph Ineson instead. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think he's still a good actor, and I think he'd bring a lot to the role. And then we got a couple other actors who have been cast in undisclosed roles. John Malkovich, Paul Walter Hauser, who's been rumored to be playing Mole Man, which I think would be really cool just because he kind of looks like Mole Man from the comic books, but we'll see what happens with that. And then Natasha Lyonne, and I think they're all fantastic actors, so I think they could be really, really cool, bring more credibility to Fantastic Four First Steps. And I know like John Malkovich was originally supposed to play the Vulture in the Sam Raimi version of Spider-Man 4, way back in the day, so it's cool that we're finally kind of getting him within the Marvel Universe. And then, Natasha Lyonne and Paul Walter Hauser are kind of like crushing the television space and film space as well, so it'll be really cool to see them in this movie to whatever capacity they are, but I know they'll bring more like legitimacy and credibility to the movie. All the actors in general have been in some fantastic projects, so no pun intended. So really cool to see all these actors within this story, and yeah, just bring more, like I said, more credibility and legitimacy to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh, and also Evan Moss Backrack was confirmed to be doing performance capture work for the Thing, and that Matt Shackman was, doing a bunch of research of like different rocks in the desert to find the right texture for the Thing. So I'm glad that this crew really cares about these characters in this project, because, in the past, with Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of Silver Surfer and Fan Four Stick, and I guess the Roger Corman version of Fantastic Four, they just never really nailed these characters in film. So I'm really excited to have, this director, these writers, these actors bring their passion, their love for this universe. And, hopefully this will be the one that actually, sticks the landing with Fantastic Four, and then we'll see more of them in Doomsday and Secret Wars. But yeah, speaking of that, it's confirmed that the 4 main characters will be appearing in those movies as well, and that Robert Downey Jr. is supposed to be playing Victor Von Doom in a post-credit scene of Fantastic Four, which is supposed to set up Doomsday and Secret Wars, but we'll get to more of that big announcement in a second. So that'll be really cool, totally makes sense. It'll probably be more like a Thanos scene at the end of Avengers or something, like once the Fantastic Four, defeat Galactus and everything at the very end, this will probably be like a calling card for all these other villains within the universe of like, oh, these guys aren't to be messed with. And then, maybe like Doctor Doom will have like, like a turn to the camera, maybe take off his mask and reveal to be Robert Downey Jr., or we'll see how it goes. Because I know in the comic books, Doctor Doom is supposed to be scarred and everything, so it'll be interesting seeing if Robert Downey Jr. will be normal or if he'll be scarred up or whatever they do. So yeah, I'm really excited for that for sure. And also at San Diego Comic-Con, it was announced that they're going to be starting filming as soon as the Comic-Con weekend was over. So now they're currently filming, and it's supposed to last about 5 months. So I think that'd be really cool, to get the release date on January 25th of next year, because I'm sure that they've already been doing like visual effects and editing it as they're going along. So I'm sure they'll be able to, get it all done before the release date, and it should be really good. But yeah, overall, I'm really excited about Fantastic Four First Steps. Not the hugest fan of the title. I think if they just called it the Fantastic Four, it'd be fine. But I know they're trying to differentiate it from the past Fantastic Four movies. So having it be Fantastic Four First Steps, makes sense. And the fact that it's supposed to be, tied into optimism and space exploration and alternate 1960s, totally makes sense. And yeah, we'll see how it ties in into the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm sure there'll be like some time travel involved, like once they're actually, brought into, modern day Doomsday and Secret Wars and things like that. And, how Doctor Doom factors into this version of Fantastic Four and then leads into Doomsday and Secret Wars. So yeah, we'll see how that all ties together. But I'm sure this is going to be like a very essential movie within Phase 6, and a lot's going to be, set up and paid off, in future films. And yeah, I'm excited to see these 4 characters within the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe and see how they tie into Doomsday and Secret Wars. And the only other update from the D23 Expo is that we got a set photo of the characters with Joseph Quinn in his Fantastic Four costume. And they're all sitting around a table, eating and having a good time and stuff like that. So yeah, it just looks like a really fun time that they're having on set. They've only been filming for like a couple weeks or so there's not really too much to show. But it is cool seeing Johnny Storm in his Fantastic Four outfit. Definitely very 60s vibe to it with a lot of like white on it and stuff like that. So I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, as time goes on, they'll show more set photos and promotional pictures and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm still excited about it. And we got a couple more updates for Fantastic Four First Steps. In mid-October, filming occurred on location at Turtle Door in Dorset, England. And there's actually a couple behind the scenes photos that were taken of Joseph Quinn in his Fantastic Four suit, walking on a beach. So I think that looks really cool. I know we've definitely gotten hints of Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four suit before, but it's really cool seeing him on location on the beach, like actually walking around and everything. So still don't know really what the context is of like why he's on a beach, but maybe it's supposed to be like the alien planet that they go on, or maybe this is right after like the crash takes place when they return to Earth. But yeah, we don't really know the context, but definitely cool to see more behind the scenes photos, and yeah, hopefully we get more of them. Also in mid-November, an actress named Sarah Niles was cast in an undisclosed role. Again, we have no idea what character she will be, or we're not really sure if her character will be revealed before the movie comes out or if we'll find out when the movie comes out. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. Then we also got confirmation that Natasha Lyonne actually wrapped her filming later that month, so I think that's really cool. Still don't know what character she's going to be, and don't really have any speculation of like what that character is, and I don't really have any speculation. Maybe she's like a completely brand new character, or she's like a really deep cut Marvel comic Easter egg character or something. But obviously she's a fantastic actress, so having her in the movie just kind of elevates it even more, and I'm sure she'll bring a lot of great gravitas to the role and to the movie itself. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I'm glad that her part's done filming, and hopefully we'll get revealed what character she's playing, or maybe it'll just be a secret that we won't find out until the movie comes out. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And as of this recording in mid-November, filming is supposed to move to Oviedo, Spain, where filming is supposed to take place primarily indoors in a place called the Calatrava Auditorium, and it's supposed to serve as headquarters to the United Nations within the movie. So that'd be interesting. I'm pretty sure there'll probably be a scene where the Fantastic Four characters, either before they go into space, are trying to propose their home mission and get approval, or it could be after they return from their mission, they're all transformed into their new personas, and they have to kind of present like who they are to the world and their mission to protect it. Maybe they find out about Galactus wanting to like threaten the world, and then like the Silver Surfer is kind of like the herald trying to prepare Earth for his impending arrival, and the Fantastic Four have to kind of like calm the world to say that they're the heroes, that they're going to save the day and everything. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Again, still no context of like why this location's in the story, but yeah, I'm sure like as time goes on we'll get more context and more behind the scenes footage and everything like that, and hopefully a new trailer soon that gives hints of like why this location's in here. But yeah, that's really the only update with that. And then the last update is that composer Michael Giacchino actually played the full Fantastic Four theme at San Diego Comic-Con and at the Hollywood Bowl later that month for the Marvel Infinity Saga concert experience. And yeah, the theme actually sounds really cool. Kind of gives those hopeful vibes of going into space and the whole space race, and kind of like looking ahead to the future. But yeah, if you want to like listen to it, you like go on YouTube and find it. But it sounds really, really fun, really, really interesting. And yeah, it just gets me more excited for the movie itself, and just shows like the kind of care that these filmmakers and the cast and crew are putting into this project to make it the best thing it can be and make it the best Fantastic Four film that we've ever gotten. So yeah, definitely gets me excited for it. So as I was editing this video, we actually just got a bunch of updates for the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. And the first one is that we got an official synopsis for the movie, and it's pretty much confirming what we already know about the Fantastic Four going against Galactus and the Silver Surfer. And apparently there's supposed to be something that happens that's very personal. Maybe in this version of Fantastic Four, Reed Richards and Sue Storm actually have their children, and maybe either Galactus or Silver Surfer maybe threaten the kids somehow, and that's the reason why it becomes very personal, and it really gets the Fantastic Four into the game and work together to battle Galactus and defeat him along with the Silver Surfer. But hopefully we'll find out soon. As of this recording a couple days ago, Kevin Feige was in an interview where he said that filming will actually be wrapping the week of Thanksgiving, so that's exciting news. So the movie will finally go into post-production, and then hopefully we'll get a brand new trailer. Hopefully we'll get one that's actually released to the public, maybe sometime when Captain America Brave New World comes comes out. And that also leads into our other bit of news. Apparently there actually was a trailer that was released at the Brazil T23 Expo, and it was pretty much an expansion on the footage that was released at Comic-Con. On Reed Richards teaching the class in front of a bunch of bored students. Sue Storm pretty much making fun of Johnny Storm, saying like, hey ladies, he's single, go ahead and date him. And the Fantastic Four in their new suits about to go up on their mission in space. And the shot of Galactus looking through the building and looking all huge. So hopefully we'll get that footage soon. And then the last bit of news, actually speaking of which, Natasha Lyonne was actually cast as a voice in What If Season 3. And it hasn't really been confirmed if this character is the one she's going to be playing in Fantastic Four First Steps, but yeah, again, we'll find out soon. Hopefully as post-production continues rolling and we get more like magazine articles and like news articles and things like that about the movie, we'll get more confirmation on what characters he's playing. But if not, then it'll just be like fun just to find out once the movie comes out, because I know Marvel's done in the past where they've casted pretty big name actors in roles in Marvel movies, but we don't really find out until the movie actually comes out. So yeah, maybe they'll just keep it secret until the movie actually comes out. So I guess we'll see what happens. But overall, yeah, I'm really excited to find out. And we also got a couple updates for Fantastic Four First Steps. Back in January of this year, it was reported that Julia Gardner will be playing Silver Surfer through motion capture, which totally makes sense, especially with the last iteration of Silver Surfer, CGI creation. I'm sure the actor probably used motion capture for that, but now that motion capture, or I guess performance capture, has been so advanced over all these years, I'm sure it's going to be even more convincing, especially with Evan Moss Backrack doing motion capture for Ben Grimm. It totally makes sense that Julia Gardner would do it for Silver Surfer in order to make her portrayal as accurate as possible to the comic books. We haven't seen any clips of her or any footage of her, so I have no idea like what she's going to look like, but I'm sure like once we get an additional trailer, we'll probably get more of what she looks like and then more of like how the kind of motion capture and performance capture actually works with her. So we'll see what happens with that. And then on to the big news. On February 4th, we got a brand new trailer, which looks fantastic, no pun intended. Also, Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Evan Moss Backrack, and Joseph Quinn appeared at a fan event at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, which is known as Rocket City, to have a whole countdown to launch the teaser trailer. And then just to jump into the teaser trailer, it just looks amazing. We kind of start off with that kind of 1960s aesthetic, with Reed Richards and Sue Storm kind of talking with that reporter about how like they always have the family dinner at the same time every evening on the dot no matter what. And then we kind of slowly but surely kind of get introduced to the other characters. We get introduced to Herbie, the little robot. We get introduced to Ben Grimm, the Thing, in his full rock form. And I like how they have that whole reference to Herbie presenting the dinner and then Ben Grimm, doing the little taste test and, having his little critiques and everything like that. He kind of starts off, saying like, okay, and then kind of gives his little like, hey, this is like what I would do differently. And, Herbie's like, okay, whatever. And I know that's definitely a reference to the bear, the character that Evan Moss Backrack plays in that show named Richie. But that's kind of like his job in that show is, kind of like critique the food before it's sent down to the dining hall. So I know that was a little Easter egg for all the bear fans. So I really definitely appreciate that because that's one of my favorite shows of all time. So I think that was really cool seeing that. But then, yeah, we get slowly but surely, we get little hints of like the conflict that the characters are facing, especially with Reed Richards, the guilt he feels about them kind of going up into space for the first time and then being affected and, how it turned like Sue invisible and then turned Ben into a rock and then turned Johnny on fire and everything like that. So I think that was like really interesting. And then, showing like Ben Grimm, seeing footage of himself as like a normal human being. And then, the TV turns off and you see his reflection, as the rock creature, showing his sadness and everything like that. And then kind of going into Sue encouraging Reed, saying, I'm still here. And, Ben's always been a rock and, Johnny's always been Johnny. And like Johnny, like laying on the couch with the helmet on and like putting it up and going like, hey. It really shows like she's really there to support him, no matter like what they're facing. And again, we get a little more hints of like the different antagonists. We get the little clip of John Malkovich's character, who we still don't know. We'll see what character he shows up as, with his long hair and beard coming out of the shadows. And then we see the shadow of Galactus, over the city. And then we see it like from the angle from like the back of his head kind of like turning. So we'll see what happens with that. And then, we get like a bunch of like action shots of Ben Grimm running through the city. And then Johnny Storm, like flying through the city covered in flames and everything, and Sue like using her like force fields and whatnot, and then the Fantastic Car driving through the streets. We haven't seen it fly, but we've seen it drive through the streets, so we'll see probably another trailer. We also get that shot of the characters looking up in the sky and looks like meteors are falling down, so we'll see what kind of threat they're facing with that. And then we get the money shot with all four of the characters lined up side by side, and we get the music like Fantastic Four by Michael Giacchino, so I think that's gonna be really cool. But yeah, this is like a really cool
cool trailer. It's like fun, emotional, action-packed, did exactly what a trailer was supposed to do, make me excited for the movies. So I'm definitely excited for it, and July 25th can't come soon enough. All right, now we move on to Eyes of Wakanda. And with this show, it's going to be about Wakandan warriors throughout history who go to different parts of the world and try to find vibranium artifacts. So I think that could be really cool. Different like side adventure. I know this is also going to be under the Marvel television animation banner. Something that doesn't have to necessarily tie into the larger MCU, but can be a little side adventure within the Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of tell more of the stories that we didn't really get when we were watching Black Panther about different warriors and the war dogs and finding vibranium artifacts and stuff like that. So I think it'd be really cool. And the show's created by Todd Harris, and he was originally a storyboard artist on a couple previous Marvel television shows. And on this project, he's also going to be a director, and he's going to be collaborating with Ryan Coogler's company called Proximity Media. So I think that'd be really cool. The fact that Ryan Coogler is on this project as well. I'm not sure how involved he is in it. Probably more of like an executive producer role, probably just like overseeing things and just making sure that things are within the tone that he set with those first two Black Panther movies. But who knows? Maybe he'll be like super involved in it. Maybe he'll direct an episode or something. But yeah, I'm really excited that he's on board. He's the one who kind of started everything with Black Panther, so it makes sense that he's on board with the show. So I'm excited to see the input that he has within it. And we also got a couple updates from the D23 Expo. So it sounds like it's going to be more of like an anthology series, and there's going to be kind of more of like a 2D animation style, which would be really cool. Kind of more inspired by classic African illustrations. And looks like there's going to be about 4 episodes with it, so I think that'll be really cool. And it's definitely confirmed that it's going to explore more of the war dog culture for the Wakandans. And it's going to center around a character named Noni and how she's supposed to be a disruptor for the Wakandan culture. So she goes into different societies and tries to take down the structure in order to find all these vibranium artifacts. So I think that'd be really cool. Kind of maybe see what N'Jobu was from the Black Panther series. So I'm really excited to see that. And the footage seemed to describe that there's going to be antagonists who are described as having glowing fists. So it looks like we're going to have more of Iron Fist in there. So it'd be really cool to have a redemption for that character and for that whole culture that was established in that series. So yeah, I'm glad we're getting more information about it. And it looks like it's also going to be part of the MCU canon. So it looks like we'll get more backstory about the war dogs. And who knows, maybe Noni will appear in Doomsday or Secret Wars. So yeah, all these different developments are definitely making me more excited about the series. And yeah, I'm excited for when it finally comes out. And we got a couple updates with Eyes of Wakanda. Like I've been saying earlier, Marvel released a look-ahead video for all the upcoming TV shows for Disney+. And in it, they showed a couple more bits of footage for Eyes of Wakanda. And yeah, it looks really cool. It definitely expands on the whole premise of Nani, the Wakandan fighter, going into different parts of the world and trying to find these ancient vibranium artifacts. And it's cool that we're kind of seeing a little bit more hints of the Wakandan culture and the different battles that'll be ensuing. And the only other real update is that's supposed to be coming out on August 6th of 2025. And which is definitely a big jump because I think at first it was supposed to be hinted at that was coming out in December. But obviously with all the different projects that are coming up, I'm sure Marvel had to do a bunch of rearranging, and August 6th was definitely the best option for it. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer until we get it, but I'm sure that'll give them time to refine the animation a little bit more, and hopefully we'll get a new trailer sometime soon, probably sometime maybe like right after Thunderbolts releases or something. We'll get something like that. And while I was editing this video, we just got a bunch of information for Eyes of Wakanda. We just got confirmation that the Wakandan warriors are called the Hatat Suraze. So that sounds pretty cool. I'm not sure if that's a kind of deep cut reference to a comic book storyline, but if it is, hopefully we'll get more explanation for it when the actual show comes out. And we just got a big reveal. The entire cast that will be appearing in Eyes of Wakanda: Winnie Harlow, Cress Williams as the Lion, Patricia Belcher, Larry Heron, Adam Gold, Lynn Whitfield, Jacques Coleman, Jonah Zhao, Isaac Robinson Smith, Gary Anthony Williams, Zeke Alton, Steve Toussaint, and Annika Noni Rose. And besides Cress Williams, we have no idea who these characters will be playing, but I'm sure as time goes on, we'll get more casting announcements of which characters they are. I'm guessing that Annika Noni Rose will be playing the character of Noni, just because she's already known for playing Tiana in Princess and the Frog. But again, that's speculation and nothing's been confirmed. But like I said before, hopefully we'll get an announcement of who the characters will be playing, and we'll get more trailers where we can actually hear these actors performing these characters, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm still excited for the project, and yeah, just gonna be 4 episodes, so quick, like one and done kind of show, and yeah, kind of give more backstory, more context to the Wakanda culture, and yeah, it just gets me excited for it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then we got a couple updates for Eyes of Wakanda. Back in January, Todd Harris was confirmed to be showrunner, so that's good news to hear. I know I reported earlier that he was going to be like head writer and director of a couple episodes, but it's good that we're getting confirmation that he's going to be the showrunner for the whole series. And I know there's only going to be 4 episodes, so I'm sure it won't be like too hard of a task. But yeah, it's cool that he got confirmed for this position. And then also back in January, there's a report that the show centered on the idea that Wakanda is kind of untethered by expansion and hidden from the rest of the world, which totally makes sense because that's what was established in Captain America: Civil War and in Black Panther, that Wakanda is definitely isolated and that it's not really affected by the outside world, and that they don't really want to have anything to do with the outside world. They kind of just want to be self-contained. So it'd be interesting to see like a story that kind of centers around that whole idea, and that doesn't really talk about actually
expanding out and opening their borders to the rest of the world. I'm sure there'll probably be some characters who want to expand their borders and open themselves up to the outside world, but I'm sure the majority is like, no, we have to be self-contained, we can't expose our technology and our resources, and potentially have more people like attack us and strip us of our vibranium and our resources and stuff like that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see like the conflict that arises from potential characters who have these different beliefs on whether they should open their borders or not. And Todd Harris also talked about the group known as the Hatat Sarazi, and he said that they were Wakanda's version of the CIA whose loyalty is tested on certain missions. So that'd be interesting. I'm wondering if the character of Noni will be part of that group, and how at first she's kind of like on these different missions to recover all these different vibranium artifacts and bring them back to Wakanda in order to continue to strengthen their lands, but then maybe she feels conflicted about how they probably shouldn't keep all these resources for themselves. Maybe she sees different parts of the world where people are really in need of their help, even within the whole continent of Africa or obviously other places in the world. And she's kind of like that character who kind of plants the seed within the kind of Wakandan's mind of like, okay, we need to open up our borders to the rest of the world. We need to help out the rest of the world. We can't like isolate ourselves. We need to help the rest of the world prosper. So that'd be interesting to see. And I'm sure like as the story goes on, there'll be more and more conflict like within her and then within the other kind of like members of the group. And maybe the show will end with her maybe like leaving Wakanda, kind of like Njobu did in Black Panther, and try to become like a war dog who's kind of like within different societies of the world and kind of helps them, by doing like deals under the table and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with it. But again, all this is just speculation. We'll see what happens when the show comes out. But yeah, hopefully we get a trailer soon that kind of explains more of like what the show's about. And yeah, we'll see what the actual story is. And then finally, also back in January, Todd Harris was saying that the series can only be done in animation due to all the different locations and the time periods that were depicted in it. And he was saying that in animation, Egypt can cost as much as New York City and the moon can cost as much as Ohio. So yeah, that totally makes sense, especially with the story that they're trying to tell. It's definitely like a global story and a lot of locations involved. And I'm sure like it would just be very difficult for this to be done in live action. So it'd definitely be easier just to do it in animation. And, just a good way to kind of bring more attention to the whole Marvel animation banner and, kind of gives them more creative freedom to kind of do all these kind of like impossible things that they wouldn't be able to do, if they were actually on a set or location. So yeah, so it totally makes sense for sure. But yeah, these updates definitely get me more excited for the show. And, hopefully we get more updates soon because the show's going to be coming out in a couple months. So hopefully we'll get an actual trailer that explains the story and we'll get more descriptions of the characters and find out what this whole story is about. But yeah, I'm still excited for the show and, we'll see what happens when it comes out in August. All right, now we'll move on to Marvel Zombies. And the official synopsis for the show is that it's about a new generation of heroes who battle against zombies. And I know the show was announced way back in the day, back in November of 2021. And that's directed by Brian Andrews, who's actually the director of What If. And Zeb Wells is serving as the head writer. And then it's based on the comic book Marvel Zombies. And it's supposed to be a continuation of the reality that was introduced in What If Season 1. And actually, I kind of liked that episode. I thought it was really fun. I wasn't expecting it to be like an actual spin-off series, but I know that episode was like really popular. And that's based on a really popular comic book storyline. So I'm sure like once Marvel saw the response to it, they're like, okay, let's jump on an entire series for it. There's only supposed to be about 4 episodes. So yeah, totally makes sense. Just gonna be like a mini series, just kind of expand on the premise that was introduced in that What If episode and kind of give it more context. And it's supposed to include characters that were introduced in Marvel Phase 4. And the biggest one is that Aman Vellani, who played Miss Marvel, is supposed to be one of the main characters within Marvel Zombies. So I think that could be really cool. Not really sure like how she's gonna play out within this story and like why she's kind of like the main one in the story. But it's really cool that she's been given more to do. I really liked the Miss Marvel series. I didn't think it was like the greatest. I think the first couple episodes were really good and then it kind of, fell off a little bit. And then of course like the Marvels was kind of like complete disaster. So I'm glad they're giving her more stuff to do, not only as an actress, but also just like as a character within the MCU. And yeah, hopefully this will be a really good introduction for her character and maybe she can become like a central role in this story and, give her more stuff to do and kind of set up her character for the rest of Marvel Phase 4 and more for Phase 6. And we're supposed to get a bunch of alternate versions of the characters within the MCU in this story. Yelena Belova, Katie, Kate Bishop, Alexei Shostakov / Red Guardian, Jimmy Woo, a character named Death Dealer, Shang-Chi, Eric Brooks / Blade. So I think that'd be really interesting. It'd be cool to see Blade's first appearance actually within the MCU, just because I don't know when we're going to get a Blade movie, but to see him in some kind of iteration within the MCU, within this kind of Marvel Zombies context is really cool. And the fact that, he's a half vampire, now he's going against zombies, and, vampires are kind of like undead anyways. So it totally makes sense that he's fighting some kind of undead creature within this story. And Wenwu, Shang-Chi's father, Riri Williams / Ironheart, and an actor named Todd Williams has also been cast in an undisclosed role. And previously he voiced a character named Rick Mason in
in the Spider-Man Miles Morales video game. So I'm not quite sure if he's going to play that same character. Most likely not. It's probably just going to be an Easter egg to all the fans who enjoy that video game. But yeah, it would actually be cool if he did play Rick Mason, but if not, then it's totally fine. It's still cool to just have this fun little Easter egg in there. And then the zombie characters that we're supposed to get within the story are Clint Barton / Hawkeye, Steve Rogers / Captain America, Emil Blonsky / Abomination, Ava Starr / Ghost, Wanda Maximoff / Scarlet Witch, Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel, which would be interesting to see how Miss Marvel deals with a zombie version of Carol Danvers and how kind of like the emotional stakes that will be involved in that. A character named Icarus and Okoye. And we also got a couple of hints of footage in the Disney Plus Look Ahead video where you have the heroes going against the zombies and then like the zombies are like jumping off this side of the building and they're going towards the camera and everything. So yeah, it could just look like it's just a really fun, scary show. And apparently it's supposed to be TVMA. This is Marvel's second TVMA show after the Echo miniseries. So yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be very like dark and intense. So yeah, they're definitely like living up to the premise that was set in the Marvel Zombies comics and then brought to life in the Marvel Zombies What If episode. So yeah, it's definitely going to be more dark and intense, and yeah, definitely gets me excited for sure. And the last thing is that it's supposed to come out in October 2025. So kind of perfectly ties into Halloween season, which yeah, totally makes sense since it's, a show about zombies. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for Marvel Zombies. I'm not like crazy excited for it. I liked the What If episode back in season 1, but I wasn't like in love with it. I was good with it just being like a one and done episode. Didn't really need a whole series. But again, I know it's like a popular storyline in the comics and, people are really wanting to see more of that. So yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get a trailer for it, maybe after as Wakanda premieres or something like that, get more context and story and then, get more things that'll get me excited for the series. But yeah, for now, I'm kind of like on it, but still open-minded to it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And we got a couple updates for Marvel Zombies. Back in February of this year, Brad Winterbaum said that Hudson Thames, who played Spider-Man in the Zombies episode of What If, and who plays Peter Parker / Spider-Man in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, would be reprising his role in this show. Yeah, which totally makes sense since he was one of the prominent characters in the Zombies episode of What If. So it'd be interesting to see like if he kind of references what happened in that episode and if he's able to kind of bring his own experiences into this show of like how to defeat the Marvel zombies and everything. But yeah, I'm glad to see Spider-Man in this show and brings more connective tissue between the What If series and the Marvel Zombies series. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with them. And then back in January of this year, director Mark Andrews called these 4 episodes a mini movie event, and that the TVMA rating meant that they didn't have to pull their punches and that they can be a little bit more hardcore. He also said that it's not just a zombie story, but that it's a sweeping adventure and that it has themes of hope and despair and that it's exactly what you want from a rich zombie story. So that actually gets me more excited for the show, just based on those kind of like clips that we got from like that Disney Plus Look Ahead video. It just looks like it was going to be just a standard zombie show and like there wasn't really going to be much story, but I'm glad that Mark Andrews was talking about like there's going to be like a rich storytelling to it and that there's going to be like hope and despair and that it's going to be like a sweeping adventure. So it looks like they actually have a story in mind and it's not just going to be like all jump scares and everything like that. So yeah, it definitely gets more excited and kind of like what I've been saying with other Disney Plus shows that have been announced, I'm hoping that we get another trailer that kind of shows more of the story context, more of like the characters, more of like the story that the characters are actually going to be involved in and gets me more excited for it. But yeah, just based on these comments, I'm definitely a little bit more excited for it than I was before. And the fact that they're not going to pull their punches with the TVMA rating just gets me more excited for it. They've definitely taken advantage of it with other TVMA shows, with Daredevil, they definitely don't pull their punches with that. Generally very adult, violent, but it's like just right on that edge of like, oh wow, it's kind of like a little shocking right there. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with like a full-on like zombie horror show and everything, not pulling their punches with all the violence and all the kills that the zombies have. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that. And yeah, I can't wait to see what happens in October. All right, now I'll move on to Wonder Man. And back in December of 2021, the director Destin Daniel Cretton, who was a director on Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, signed a multi-year deal with Marvel Studios to develop more projects for them. And apparently they were wanting more of like a comedy series. And apparently there was already one in development with Destin's company called Family Owned. And back in June of 2022, it was announced that it was in early development and that it would center on the character of Simon Williams / Wonder Man, with Andrew Guest helping out with the development as a head writer and then later becoming a showrunner. And then later that year in October, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was announced as the title character, along with Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery, Demetrius Gross as Eric Williams / Grim Reaper, Simon's brother, and Ed Harris as Neil Soroyan, Simon's agent. Then we also have a couple actors who were casted in undisclosed roles: Lauren Glazier, Josh Gad, Byron Bowers, and Manny McCord. And filming began in April of 2023 in Los Angeles and also occurred at Radford Studio Center. And also a couple of directors have been announced for the series, including Destin Daniel Cretton, Stella McGee, and James Ponsoldt, and also a production company called Onyx Collective serves as producers of the series. And then filming resumed in January of this year and then concluded in April. And like I said earlier, clips for Wonder Man were included in the Disney Plus look ahead video. And yeah, I think it looks really cool. It definitely shows that Simon Williams is definitely kind of like this struggling actor who's like trying to audition for the part of Wonder Man, and going into the audition room and announcing himself and everything. And then of course we get clips of Trevor Slattery trying to be kind of like his like marketing person, trying to like take photos of him and like has like the ring light and everything like that, since he was like a struggling actor within the Iron Man story and in Shang-Chi. Yeah, so it's really fun to see their whole dynamic, these two opposite characters who are kind of like put into this situation together. And I guess apparently, supposed to be Simon Williams is auditioning for a part of Wonder Man, who's like a superhero for a television series, and then he ends up actually getting superpowers in the end and becoming a real life superhero. So I think that could be really, really fun. And the video was announced it's supposed to be coming out in December 2025, so we still have a long way ahead until we finally get it, but I'm glad we've got some first footage of it now, and I'm sure we'll get more trailers for it and like clips and stuff down the line. But for now, I'm definitely very curious about the show, and it definitely looks very entertaining for sure. When I first heard about it, I wasn't really familiar with the character of Wonder Man, but seeing like the clips and hearing like the premise and everything like that, and the cast that's involved gets me really excited for it. Again, it's a bummer that we have to wait over a year till we get it as of this recording, but yeah, I'm sure like as time goes on, we'll get more trailers and clips and behind the scenes stuff and information about the story. And of course, we have a bunch of movies and TV shows that we have in between that time to keep us entertained, so I'm sure the time will go by fast for sure. And there's supposed to be 10 episodes, so I think that'd be really cool. Since this is a brand new character, I'm sure there'll have to be time to introduce his character and explain his backstory and introduce him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I know this is supposed to be under the Marvel Spotlight banner, so he's not going to be super essential to the overall MCU, but yeah, hopefully this will be a really good show and that he'll be introduced properly within the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. And yeah, we'll get more of his character because at least from these clips, it looks really, really fun. So yeah, I'm excited for it, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. We also have a couple updates for Wonder Man. Back in February of this year, Brad Winterbaum originally reported that the show is going to be about 10 episodes, but then he later said the series would be about 8 episodes and that they'd be about 20 to 40 minutes each, which I think is totally fine. Sometimes 10 episodes could be a little bit too excessive, so if you're able to compress the story into like 8 episodes and make them between 20 to 40 minutes just to have a little bit more concise storytelling, then yeah, I'm totally not upset about that. I'm not really familiar with Wonder Man at all, so I don't know like how much they need to explain within 10 episodes. So if they're able to kind of compress the storytelling into about 8 episodes with 20 to 40 minutes each, then I think that's probably for the better. Just based on like the trailer and everything, it doesn't look like it's going to be like a super expansive story. It looks like it's going to be a very self-contained story. So the fact that they're kind of like putting it into a shorter amount of episodes, totally makes sense. So we'll see what happens with it. And again, like I keep saying before, like I hope we get a brand new trailer soon. I know it's still a while away. It's not until December. So they're probably putting most of their marketing energy into like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. But I'm sure like once those movies, are finally released, then they'll focus more on like the Disney Plus shows, like As Wakanda and Marvel Zombies and then this show. And then, kind of get the marketing rolling for that and get us more story information and character information and, see how it all kind of fits within the larger MCU. And then also in February, Brad Winterbaum was saying that the series was straight from the minds of Dustin Daniel Cretton and from Andrew Guest. And he said that it was very sincere. And I'm not really familiar with a lot of their work outside of Marvel, but I really like Shang-Chi, and I definitely see like the personal touch that Dustin put into that movie. And, I can totally see how he would do this within Wonder Man. Just based on the clips we got, it looks like it's going to be a very personal story with Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character, being an actor who's kind of trying to audition for the character of Wonder Man, and, all the kind of like crazy stuff that happens after that, and, with Trevor Slattery at his side. And especially since Trevor Slattery was in Shang-Chi, Dustin gets to work with him again and, probably expand his role even more and give him like more comedy and more drama and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm definitely really excited for it. Again, I know it's probably going to be a while until we get more trailers and stuff like that, but yeah, just hearing these reports just makes me more excited for this show, and December can't come soon enough. All right, now move on to Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And I know the season was announced way back in the day in like July of 2022, and originally it was supposed to be 18 episodes, but then after their creative overhaul, they decided to split the season into 2 parts and have season 1 be the first 9 episodes and then have this season be the next 9 episodes. And director Dario Scartapane and directors Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead are set to return to the series. And Dario Scartapane described this as being the second part of the first season, which totally makes sense since this was originally just supposed to be one big season and they're just splitting up into 2 parts. And filming for the second season actually began last month and is supposed to continue until July of this year. And Dario Scartapane also described that this season is supposed to build on the events of season 1. And as of this recording, I just finished episode 4 of season 1. So I know we still have about 5 more episodes, but yeah, so far, like there's definitely a lot of stuff brewing, with the character of Muse and the character of Punisher being reintroduced, and, with Kingpin gaining power and with Daredevil, kind of slowly but surely getting back into the fight. Hey, jumping in real real quick. So actually, as I was editing the video, episodes 5 and 6 came out for Daredevil Born Again, and they're actually really good. I really liked episode 5. It was really cool, like bank heist hostage situation episode with Daredevil in the center. And I really liked the fact that Kamala Khan's dad, Yusuf, was in the episode as well. I thought he really brought a lot of like heart to the episode, and the fact that he was referencing Kamala Khan and Ms. Marvel was really cool, just to give a little bit more of a tie-in to larger MCU within the Daredevil universe. I guess the only downside is that it felt kind of self-contained, like didn't really have anything to do with like the larger story that's going on within Daredevil Born Again, but I still liked it, and they reference it a little bit in episode 6, so it kind of ties in somewhat, but overall, yeah, episode 5 was really good. And of course, the big episode, episode 6, which we get a proper introduction for the character of Muse, and we get introduced to the fact that he's a serial killer and that he uses his victims' blood for the different murals he paints on the walls. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think it's also really interesting how Muse is kind of like one of the central conflicts within the show, and how both Matt Murdock / Daredevil and Wilson Fisk are trying to deal with him in their different ways. Like Matt Murdock is still trying to use the justice system and try to let the cops do their jobs to potentially bring Muse in. And then we get more with the character of Angela, Hector Ayala / White Tiger's niece, and how she feels like the justice system isn't really doing anything, and how she's really pressuring Matt to avenge White Tiger after he was murdered, and how Matt's really resistant, and then how Angela tries to do an investigation on her own and then gets captured by Muse and taken to his lair, and then starts the process of getting her blood extracted. And then I really like the scene where Matt Murdock is in his apartment, and then he gets a call from Angela's mother about how she's missing, and how Matt's trying to call the police, but then Matt's just like F it, and then just goes, gets back into the Daredevil costume and then fights off Muse, which was like a really cool fight scene. And we don't really know what's going to happen to Muse after the end of this episode. We know that now Daredevil's back. Angela like wakes up after Daredevil rescues her, and she's like, "Are you back?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm back." So I think that's really cool. So we'll see how Daredevil is like brought back into the fight, how Muse becomes more of an antagonist, and then how Kingpin on the flip side is trying to find his own way to combat all the vigilantes in the world with the anti-vigilante task force. And we get introduced to a couple new characters and some old characters that we've seen through the series, like all the different cops who were kind of taken off the force because they were too aggressive with how they were trying to regulate all these rules and laws and everything like that. So I think it's really cool that Kingpin is kind of rousing them up and trying to get them to get on his side for this task force to take care of all the vigilantes. So I think his storyline really kind of ended with like, oh shoot, like what's going to happen? And of course, everything that happened with like Adam, that whole subplot was just insane. It really just shows like how psychotic Kingpin really is. Underneath, he has this persona of being the mayor, but really underneath, he's still a Kingpin, and things are still going to be happening with his character. So yeah, overall, like I really love both these episodes, especially episode 6. And yeah, I really can't wait to see what's going to happen with the remaining 3 episodes and how it's going to continue on into season 2. So yeah, we'll see how this season wraps up. I have no idea how it's going to end, but I'm sure like whatever happens within this first season 2 is just going to pick up where this one left off, and then just continue to build on it with all the conflicts with all the vigilantes, and with Kingpin gaining power, and with Daredevil trying to stop him, potentially with Punisher. And he said that 7 scripts were already locked and loaded and ready to go ahead of the start of filming, and Dario Scartapane was still working on the finale of season 1 because he wanted to be able to incorporate elements that he discovered along the way during filming, kind of similar to a traditional network series where only a few episodes are written ahead of time. He also said that Wilson Fisk will be the prime villain of the series. We'll also feature other antagonists that will pile up as the series continues, which include the character of Muse, and he described that his storyline will have a ripple effect from season 1 into season 2, which totally makes sense just based on the last episode I just watched, episode 4, where it ends with Muse kidnapping a guy and then like extracting his blood. So we have no idea like what he's trying to do or what his grand plan is, but like what Dario was saying, his storyline will have a ripple effect into the next season. So I'm sure like as this first season will come on, he'll become more and more prominent, and yeah, I'm excited to see what this character is all about. Not really too familiar with him, but just based on his introduction in this show, it looks like he's going to be really dangerous, very sinister, and just very psychotic. So I'm excited to see what happens with him. And then it was also reported that Foggy Nelson will appear in season 2, despite, spoiler alert, being killed off in the first episode of season 1. And then executive producer Sana Amanat said that Foggy Nelson and Karen Page will both appear in different ways throughout the season. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be more like flashbacks, since at least for now, like we just saw Karen Page in the first episode of Daredevil Born Again, and then she kind of goes off. I'm not really sure if she'll kind of reappear in this season, but then again, I've only seen the first 4 episodes, so I'm not really sure how she'll reappear. But at least for now, I'm sure they're probably going to have like flashbacks with Foggy Nelson. I know there's like theories, based on like different comic storylines, that Foggy Nelson will be kind of resurrected through some kind of like dark magic or something like that, and there'll be consequences, following that action. So I'm not not quite sure if they'll do that. I'm sure that it'll probably just be easier just to do flashbacks, but we'll see. I have no idea like what they're going to do with it, but just based on kind of like the tone they're trying to set with this story, just be easier just to do flashbacks with Foggy, and then have Karen reappear maybe at the end of this season, and then have her be more prominent in season 2. Maybe like Matt Murdock and Karen Page, reunite and become like a duo as far as like their law firm and everything like that. So we'll see what happens, which I'm really excited for. Just because it's like hard to watch. Matt Murdock is kind of like the lone wolf lawyer. It'd be nice to have Karen Page by his side during all these trials and everything like that. So we'll see what happens. And the creative team said they can't see a season of Daredevil without Foggy Nelson in some regard. So I'm glad they're trying to figure out a way to bring him back into the story and have him be a little bit more prominent to whatever capacity it might be. And then it was also reported that actor Matthew Leonard has been cast in an undisclosed role. So we'll see what happens with that. I love Matthew Leonard. I love him in the Scream movies and Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies. So we'll see what kind of character he plays. If it's more like a kind of comedic character, or maybe he'll be like an assistant in Matt Murdock's law firm or something, or maybe he'll be like another kind of like prosecutor that's kind of like antagonistic with him. But yeah, we have no idea what it's going to be. There's been no news with it, but it's cool to see Matthew Leonard in the Daredevil universe and within the MCU to whatever capacity it might be. It's like a small role, a big role, who knows? But yeah, overall excited to see him in the next season of Daredevil. And then finally, this season is scheduled to premiere in early to mid 2026. So it looks like we'll get it sooner rather than later. And I'm pretty sure it's probably going to come out maybe like in March, kind of like how it did this year, which would make sense just to kind of keep it consistent. And I heard reports that they're trying to make Daredevil like an annual thing. So maybe like every March we get a new season of Daredevil. So we'll see how it goes, especially since this first season is so good. Hopefully they can keep the quality going for future seasons. And I'm sure season 2 is going to be even better. I'm excited for the 8 episodes that we'll be getting and can't wait to see what happens with the Daredevil universe. All right, now we'll move on to Vision Quest. Apparently back in October of 2022, this project was in development, and that the creator of WandaVision, Jack Schaefer, was supposed to be the showrunner of it. But then back in May of this year, she decided to drop out of the project because she wanted to focus more on Agatha All Along. And they hired a new showrunner named Terry Matalas to take over the project and become showrunner for it. So I think that could be really cool. And then also Paul Bettany was confirmed back in 2022, and apparently he's still in the project, which totally makes sense since he is Vision. So yeah, I think this could be really cool. It's supposed to explore Vision regaining his memories after the events of WandaVision, where fake Vision fade away after Wanda took down the shield of Westview and then returned everybody's memories. And then White Vision regained the memories from fake Vision, and then now is trying to figure out who he was and then how he fits in the world. I know Kevin Feige was saying that he likes to wrap up different storylines and things like that and doesn't want to kind of leave things hanging. So I think, yeah, it totally makes sense, because at the end of WandaVision, he just kind of flies up at the end of the battle between fake Vision and real Vision, and then we don't hear him ever again. So maybe this will be like a mini series or something, maybe like 6 episodes or something like that, to kind of wrap up his storyline, have him regain his memories, bring him back to the Vision that he was beforehand, and then, set him up for Doomsday and Secret Wars. And the only other update is that filming is supposed to take place at the end of this year, sometime in the fall, and that is supposed to come out in 2026. So I think that could be really cool. Like maybe it'll come out like sometime before Doomsday. Maybe it'll wrap up Vision's storyline and then set him up for Doomsday. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. And we don't have too many updates with Vision Quest. This was actually announced a couple days after I posted the previous video for what Marvel Phase 5 and 6 need to do. It's that James Spader is set to reprise his role as Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron in Vision Quest. So I think that could be really cool. I'm not sure like how he's going to reprise his role, especially since he was destroyed at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron. But maybe they're hinting at the climax where Vision kind of grabs onto Ultron's head and they kind of have this kind of mind merge kind of thing. So maybe like a bit of Ultron is still within Vision, and then maybe as the events of Vision Quest kind of unfold, maybe that part of Ultron is kind of unlocked and maybe escapes Vision's head and then maybe finds another body or something, and then slowly but surely kind of reassembles himself, and then they kind of have this big battle in it or something. We don't really know anything more about it. Like hopefully as time goes on, we'll get more news and updates with Vision Quest. But yeah, right now we don't really know too much about it. Again, it's supposed to come out in 2026, so we still have a while till we get it, and we don't really have like a confirmed release date for it just yet. So yeah, still lots of time for speculation and news to come out about it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm excited that he's back. Wasn't the hugest fan of Avengers Age of Ultron, but I mean, I really like James Spader in it as an actor, and I think he had a lot of potential to, continue on within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm glad they're bringing him back in this iteration, and yeah, hopefully they kind of give him more to do in this show and make him more of a threat and everything like that. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's really the only kind of announcement with that one. And the only other announcement is that it's supposed to be kind of like the conclusion of this trilogy of series that started off with WandaVision, continued with Agatha All Along, and then now concludes with Vision Quest. Yeah, which totally makes sense since, Agatha All Along is kind of like a wrap up to all the storylines that were set up in WandaVision as far as like Wanda's this character and add this character, and then Vision Quest is going to be kind of the conclusion of Vision's character that was set up in WandaVision. So yeah, totally makes sense. So we'll see how it goes, and yeah, again, hopefully we'll get more announcements of like what the premise is of this story and the characters that are involved and the storyline that's involved. But yeah, those are really real announcements for that. And we actually got a couple updates for Vision Quest. Back in January of this year, Ferran Tahir was confirmed to be reprising his MCU role as Raza from the Iron Man movies. So I think that'd be interesting. I know technically we didn't see him die or anything like at the end of Iron Man, so it'd be interesting to see like how he's brought back into this series and how he's kind of connected with Vision in a way. But I guess the only connection is that Vision was in part created by Tony Stark, and then Tony Stark has an indirect connection with Raza since he was captured by him in the first Iron Man movie. And maybe this is his way of like getting revenge. Maybe he was able to kind of like slowly but surely rebuild his empire in a way, and he's trying to continue his revenge on Tony Stark and go after his creations. And his only living creation right now is Vision, so maybe he's going to try to find a way to capture Vision, take his technology, reprogram him, and maybe use it to fulfill his goal from the first Iron Man movie about having like an army of Iron soldiers. So maybe he'll have like an army of like Visions. So we'll see what happens with that. Nothing's been confirmed about what his role is going to be. We don't know if it's just a little cameo or if he's going to be like a co-antagonist with Ultron, who's been confirmed for this show. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's really cool that we're getting Raza back into this story. We haven't seen him since 2008, so it'll be interesting to see like where he's at within the MCU at this point in the story, and how he kind of factors back into the MCU to whatever capacity he might be in. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Now it's going to be a long time until we get Vision Quest, and we've just been getting like early reports on things. So yeah, it's probably going to be a while until we get confirmation like the story and the characters and the conflict and everything. But yeah, overall excited to see Raza back in the MCU and see what happens with him within the storyline. And then also back in February of this year, Terry Matalas, Christopher J. Byrne, and Vincenzo Natali were confirmed to be directing episodes of the series. And I'm not too familiar with their work, but the fact that Terry Matalas was chosen to become like the showrunner and a director for the series, I think is really, really cool. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, I'm glad that we're getting directors confirmed for this series, and hopefully we'll get like an actual episode count pretty soon, and then get descriptions for what the episodes are, or even like titles for the episodes. And yeah, we can start speculating on like what's going to happen with the story and how it fits into the overall MCU. Right, now we move on to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2. And again, I know this was announced way back in the day, back in July of 2022, and it was supposed to continue the naming convention of the original title Season 1, which was Spider-Man Freshman Year. And Jeff Trammell is returning as head writer and showrunner of the series. And also back in January of this year, he said that the series wasn't limited to covering one school year within one season of the show. So maybe Season 2 will cover his sophomore year and his junior year, and then the third season will cover his senior year. And the third season was actually reported to be in development, so we'll see what happens with that one. And then the second season is expected to premiere sometime in 2026, so we'll see when it eventually comes out. Maybe it'll come out like January of next year, kind of like how the first season came out in January of this year. So kind of like with Daredevil Born Again, where if it's like an annual thing, maybe it'll come out around the same time every year. So maybe it'll come out every January, but yeah, no confirmation of when it's going to come out. Maybe January might be a little bit too soon, so maybe they might push it to like summer or something like that. Maybe like April and May before Spider-Man 4 comes out or something like that, to kind of get people hyped up for the whole Spider-Man like character and everything like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, again, like I've been saying with like other shows and movies, like hopefully we'll get more confirmation of like when the release dates are, and more about the story and about the episodes and how it all fits within the overall MCU. All right, now I'll move on to the Untitled Punisher special. Back in February of this year, a special presentation centered around the character of Frank Castle / Punisher from Marvel's Netflix series and Daredevil Born Again was announced to be in development. So that's really exciting. I know it's been a while since we actually got special presentations. We got the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special and the Werewolf by Night special, but then we didn't really get anything after that, which I kind of missed because I like those kind of one and done specials, but I guess apparently they were like too expensive to produce or something, so I decided to just kind of like end those and just focus on the movies and TV shows. But yeah, I'm glad they're bringing back the specials. I have no idea if they're gonna do more specials, but at least we got this one special that's been confirmed, and the fact that it's Punisher makes it even better, just because I love the character of Frank Castle / Punisher. I still haven't seen the actual Netflix Punisher series, I know, but I did love seeing him in Daredevil Season 2 and so far in Daredevil Born Again. And I just love Jon Bernthal in general, just anything he pops up in, I love, Walking Dead, Fury, Baby Driver, The Bear, just anything he's in. I just love, it's like, hey, Jon Bernthal, I gotta watch that. So I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think he can do something great with this special. And it was also announced that Ronaldo Marcus Green was set to direct and also write the series along with Jon Bernthal. And they also worked on a miniseries together called We Own the City. So that's really cool that Jon Bernthal is going to be really involved in it. The fact that he's helping write the series, I think, is really cool. Knows the character better than anyone, being within, the Marvel Netflix series and then in Daredevil Born Again. It's cool that he's kind of bringing bring his own kind of like experience of playing the character like within the writing of the special. So I think that'd be really cool. And that's also supposed to be released sometime in 2026. So 2026 is definitely going to be a packed year. No confirmation of like when it's going to come out. Like maybe it'll come out around the same time as Daredevil Born Again season 2. Maybe after that show wraps up, maybe like a week or two later, we'll get this special. So I think that'd be really cool. And there's also reports that this is going to be like a no holds barred kind of show. You know, it's going to be like ultra violent and hardcore. So, you know, totally makes sense. You know, just seeing his little cameo in Daredevil Born Again, you know, just seeing like how intense he can be, like not only intense, but also really dramatic and empathetic and, you know, very threatening. So to see him kind of like off the leash in his own kind of like hour-long special or however long it'll be, you know, be really, really cool. Again, not really sure what the story's going to be. Is it going to be kind of like a prequel? Is it going to be like, you know, present day? Is it going to be like set during the events of the Marvel Netflix series, or is it going to be set during the events of Daredevil Born Again? You know, we don't know. But yeah, it's going to be really fun to see just a no holds barred Punisher special. And yeah, 2026 can't come soon enough. All right, now we move on to the Untitled Spider-Man No Way Home sequel, which I'm just going to call Spider-Man 4 for now, which yeah, totally didn't expect. I really thought that Spider-Man 4 was going to be completely by Sony, and that the whole point of No Way Home was to kind of like remove Tom Holland's Spider-Man from the MCU and then put it within its own Sony Spider-Verse. But yeah, it looks like Marvel Studios and Sony are going to collaborate on this movie, and you know, it's probably why it took so long for them to come up with a story, because you know, Sony's been kind of going downhill, you know, especially with like Madam Web and all the different flops they've been having with the Spider-Verse and everything like that, you know, besides the Into the Spider-Verse movies, which are actually great, but all the other live action Spider-Man movies have just been not that great. So they probably reach out to Marvel and say, hey guys, can you kind of help us out? And I'm sure like Tom Holland kind of had to do some convincing in order to help him do that. So yeah, hopefully it's a good collaboration and they have a really good idea for it moving forward. But yeah, I guess this has been in development since August of 2019. You know, that there'd be like a fourth Spider-Man collaboration between Marvel and Sony, and I'm sure there's been a lot of like ups and downs since then. But yeah, I'm glad that they've been developing it for a while, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see like what the end product is, you know, once it's actually released. And then back in November of 2021, Aim Pascal actually announced that they were planning on doing like a whole trilogy of new Spider-Man movies with the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man / Peter Parker. Yeah, so that'll definitely be interesting. And again, hopefully Marvel and Sony, you know, continue to have like a relationship and they can actually work together on the entire trilogy for the new Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So I think that'd be really cool, you know, especially after the ending of No Way Home, where no one knows who he is, and you know, now he has a whole homemade suit. You know, he's living in an apartment by himself. You know, he's taking the GED. MJ and Ned have no idea who he is, and then obviously all the MCU characters have no idea who he is. So yeah, now they can really tell like a brand new story, you know, with him, you know, as this brand new character in a way. And I'm not quite sure like what the storyline is going to be, but yeah, hopefully they'll introduce like new characters. Like maybe they'll have Gwen Stacy as a new love interest. You know, maybe they'll introduce a new version of like Harry Osborn as like a new best friend. Maybe they'll have like, you know, Kirk Connors in there like as the new mentor. Maybe it's kind of like a reboot of what they were trying to do with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. You know, now that they're working together with Marvel, they can introduce those ideas that they had for those movies into this context. And maybe they'll have more like Sinister Six stuff. Maybe they'll have like, you know, Tom Hardy's Venom as one of the main antagonists, and you know, get that whole Sinister Six premise that they were trying to do, you know, way back in the day with the Andrew Garfield movies, you know, up and running. So we'll see how it goes with that. You know, I know they kind of hinted at it with the No Way Home version of the different villains for Sinister Six, but yeah, maybe this is their second reattempt at it. So we'll see how that goes for that. But yeah, hopefully they just make a good Spider-Man 4 movie, and then if that does great, then they'll work on 5 and 6. So we'll see what happens with the trilogy. But for now, I'm glad they're just working on just Spider-Man 4 for now. And then back in February 2023, writers Chris McKenna and Eric Summers started working on the script and the story for it. But then the work was put on hold because of the whole writers and actors strike. And that Aim Pascal said that the work would continue after it was concluded. And thank goodness it was concluded, and the work was continued after that. And at the same time, Tom Holland was talking about how he was in different meetings, you know, talking about the project, but then obviously those were stalled because of the actors strike. But then after that actors strike concluded, he was able to continue the meetings and get the ball rolling on the production. And then back in September of this year, Destin Daniel Cretton was actually confirmed to be the director of the project. So I think that's really cool. I know like originally he was going to be directing Avengers 5, but then he decided to step down and then work on other Marvel projects, Shang-Chi 2 and Wonder Man. But yeah, I had no idea that he was actually, you know, wanting to do Spider-Man 4. So I think that's really, really cool as well. You know, get the Russo brothers to do Avengers since they've done Avengers movies in the past. And then Destin can work on smaller movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just focus on like one character. So I'm glad that he's working on Spider-Man because, you know, he's a fantastic director. You know, I really loved what he did on Shang-Chi, and just seeing the different clips from Wonder Man looks really, really cool. So it definitely gets me excited that he's working on this project. And yeah, definitely wish him the best, and hopefully make something really great. And of course, later that month, Tom Holland was confirmed to star, which
which, totally makes sense because, like, why would he be recasting the role? I know he's trying to take a break from acting a little bit, work on his mental health and everything like that. So I'm glad that he was able to take his break. And then now he's coming back as Peter Parker / Spider-Man for Spider-Man 4. And, he's really excited about the project. He was on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And he was like so excited to finally announce the project. Also in that video, he announced that filming is supposed to take place in summer of 2025 for a release date for July 24th of 2026. So yeah, I'm glad that, they finally have a filming date and a release date. So that's really, really cool. And, everything's like up and running. I know it's been like a long process to get to this point, a lot of ups and downs and a lot of like stops and starts, but I'm glad that production's rolling on this and that, yeah, we'll finally get a Spider-Man 4 movie because, as soon as we got that ending for Spider-Man No Way Home, everyone's been wondering like what's going to happen with Tom Holland's Peter Parker within the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what's going to happen just to Peter Parker / Spider-Man in general now that people don't know who he is and, now he's off on his own and now he's like, got the classic suit and an apartment and everything like that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we had to wait a long time for it, but I'm glad that we finally have a release date on the calendar. And yeah, now it's just a matter of getting the behind the scenes photos and videos and trailers and stuff like that, to just get us more excited. But yeah, I'm excited that it's going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and yeah, that we have actual release date for it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, definitely very excited for it for sure. And we also got a couple updates for the Untitled Spider-Man No Way Home sequel, which I'm just going to call Spider-Man 4. Back in February of this year, the film's release date was pushed back a week to July 31st of 2026. I'm not quite sure why they did that. I mean, maybe it was because they were still working on like visual effects and stuff like that and they just need more time, or maybe another movie's going to come out that month. They didn't want to have to compete with it, so they just had to move it back a week. So not really any explanation for it, but hey, at least we're still getting the movie and at least it was just pushed back a week and not like several weeks or several months into the future. So we'll have to wait one more week longer, but yeah, I'm still excited for this movie and yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then also this month, it was reported that Sadie Sink joined the cast in an undisclosed role. So I think that's really exciting. I love Sadie Sink. I loved her ever since seeing her in Stranger Things 2 onward. She was my favorite character in Stranger Things 4. Definitely like the best part of that series for sure. Running up that hill became a phenomenon, both times it was used. So I'm glad to see her within the MCU. There's speculation on like what character she'll be playing. There's speculation that she might be playing the character of Jean Grey just to kind of introduce some of the X-Men characters. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm not quite sure if that'll actually happen, just because they'll probably take away from Spider-Man as a character. Maybe she'll just be playing a brand new character. Maybe she'll be playing Gwen Stacy, just dye her hair blonde. Bryce Dallas Howard did that in Spider-Man 3, so why can't Sadie Sink do it in this movie? So we'll see what happens with it. And I know there's also speculation like, oh, she'll be Mary Jane, but we already had an MJ with Zendaya in the previous Spider-Man movies. And then there's also speculation that she might be like Firestar, because she has like the red hair and everything. So we'll see what happens with it. Again, no news on like what role she's playing. She could be playing an iconic character or she could just be playing a brand new character. But overall, I'm just excited to see her within the MCU and to see her dynamic with Tom Holland. It'll be really exciting to see. There's also reports that she might be playing like Felicia Harding / Black Cat. So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, hopefully as the time goes on, we'll get confirmation of who she's playing, or maybe it'll just be like a surprise. We might not find out until the movie's actually released, but I'm sure we'll probably find out sometime in the next couple months or so, just because Sadie Sink is such a prominent actress within Hollywood right now. So we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, overall, I'm excited to see her within the MCU and can't wait to find out what role she plays. All right, and we'll sort of wrap this up with the two big ones, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. And yeah, there's been a lot of big updates with these projects. One of them being back in November of 2023, Destin Daniel Cretton dropped out of the project to focus more on other Marvel projects, such as Shang-Chi 2, which, totally makes sense. Because I love the first Shang-Chi movie, and I know a lot of people did too. And I know a lot of people have been wondering, like, when are we going to get Shang-Chi 2? So in a way, I'm glad that he kind of stepped down from Avengers in order to focus more on Shang-Chi 2. And hopefully we'll get it sooner rather than later. I know there's different slots that Marvel's claimed to release different films, unnamed projects and stuff like that. So hopefully Shang-Chi 2 will be one of them. And that originally they're going to be written by Jeff Loveness, but he got fired from the project because he worked on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and that didn't do well. So he got fired and then got replaced by Michael Waldron, who worked on Loki Season 2 and on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And then another major update with that is that back in December of this year, Jonathan Majors was fired from Disney because he was put on trial for abusing his ex-partner, and he was let go from all these different projects, so he couldn't be King the Conqueror within Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was kind of like a blessing in disguise because the King character hasn't really worked as well within the MCU. His first appearance in in Ant-Man Quantumania. I mean, I thought he was like good in the role, but obviously he gets defeated by ants at the very end, and very kind of underwhelming end for a character. And then we kind of get like the Court of Kings, where it's just like, wait, what the heck is going on? Where there's like all these different kings going on. So when Jonathan Majors was fired, they kind of had to rewrite Loki season 2, where they kind of like just end the King storyline in general. They kind of snip the branches, so to speak, and then Loki replaces Kang at the end of the universe, and kind of makes all these different timelines and everything more like a tree. He's kind of like the keeper of time, so to speak. And then the rest of the TVA is kind of like clipping all the branches that Kang is the conqueror and all these different timelines, stuff like that. So they kind of just wiped out that whole storyline. And then that kind of leads us into the big announcement. It's like, well, then since it's not going to be Kang Dynasty anymore, I guess we have to change it to Avengers 5. So like, who's going to be the big bad now? And there's been rumors that, Dr. Doom might be the new main villain of Avengers 5 and Secret Wars. And then lo and behold, we get to Comic-Con of this past year, and we get the whole big announcement that Robert Downey Jr. is returning as Victor Von Doom / Dr. Doom. So I think that's really cool. I know that's been met with a lot of controversy of like, okay, is he like a Tony Stark variant, or is he just playing Dr. Doom? But if he's playing Dr. Doom, it's going to be kind of confusing. Like, why does he look like Tony Stark? Like, why can't they just get new actors? And people are saying like, is Marvel just desperate, or are they geniuses, or a bit of both? Kind of like Peter Cole saying like, bit of both and everything. So yeah, I think Marvel kind of needed, something like this. And I know there's been rumors that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans would come back into the MCU to some capacity. We saw Chris Evans come back as Johnny Storm, and then makes sense that we have Robert Downey Jr. come back as Dr. Doom for Doomsday and Secret Wars. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm happy to see Robert Downey Jr. in the role. I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, maybe like Mads Mikkelsen could be Dr. Doom or something, because I know other actors within Marvel Cinematic Universe have played 2 different characters. So I guess it makes sense. But given the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is such an icon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Iron Man, pretty much the face of the franchise, it'd be kind of weird to see him as a brand new character. So hopefully they'll lean more towards that he's like a Tony Stark variant. There's different rumors that, something may have happened in his childhood, and that like his parents were killed earlier on, and then he had to move back to, Latveria, and then adopted the name Von Doom. So, that makes sense for him growing up to be Victor Von Doom. Or, something happens later on in his life, like instead of him being brought into the cave at the first Iron Man and then being Jensen and, kind of being more of a redemptive story, maybe he didn't have a Jensen and he kind of broke bad in a way, and then he changed his name from Tony Stark to Victor Von Doom / Dr. Doom. So we'll see what happens with Marvel's explanation for it. I know we're getting Doomsday, changed from King Dynasty to Doomsday, so I'm sure there'll be a lot more explanation within that, like who is Dr. Doom and why does he look like Tony Stark. So we'll see what happens with that. And the other announcement is that the Russo brothers are back to direct Doomsday and Secret Wars. And I know there's this whole backstory that the only reason why Robert Downey Jr. would come back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is if the Russo brothers were hired back to direct the 2 movies. So I know that was kind of like a tie-in for that, and that they're probably gonna have a big payday for this. They're gonna get $40 million for each film, plus all the back end stuff once the movie's released, and obviously it's probably gonna make $1 billion and everything. And that Robert Downey Jr. is gonna get an even bigger paycheck. He's gonna get probably $100 million for both films and everything. So, good for him for all that. Definitely deserves it after winning the Oscar for Oppenheimer. So now he kind of has a little bit more say in the projects that he wants to do and kind of like the demands that he has for his contract. So, totally makes sense. And then also Stephen McFeely has been brought back to write both movies, replacing Michael Waldron. So that was probably one of the deals of why he was replaced. But it's too bad that Christopher Marcus isn't also involved in writing the films as well, at least as far as we know, because I know that Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely have been writing a bunch of Marvel movies together. So it's interesting seeing just Stephen McFeely work on this, but I'm sure, he can handle it on his own, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, overall, I'm excited for both movies, and, I'm glad to see Robert Downey Jr. back within the MCU. We'll see how he's brought back in the MCU, and we'll see, kind of how Marvel treats his return to it. Is it going to be a Tony Stark variant, or is it going to be playing a completely different character? We'll see what happens, but I'm sure like as time will go on, people will process it more and, be more commonplace. But yeah, for now, I know it's still very controversial, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. And filming is supposed to take place within the second quarter of 2025 in London. So I'm glad they have a plan for when they start filming it. I'm sure probably like Infinity War and Endgame probably take like a year or so. So they'll give them plenty of time for post-production work and then make the films just as good as possible to kind of wrap up this multiverse saga. And yeah, just make it the best finale that it can be. And we actually got a bunch of updates for Avengers Doomsday. Back in October of 2024, the Russo brothers said that Doomsday and Secret Wars were being produced similarly to how Infinity War and Endgame were produced. But they wouldn't be filmed back to back like the previous films were, which totally makes sense just because just reading on the production history of Infinity War and
Endgame. It just seemed like a huge task for the Russo brothers to be filming for a straight year, these two huge films. So I think it just makes it easier for them that they just focus on one movie and then make that one as good as possible and then move on to the next movie. Especially before they took on these movies, they said that Infinity War and Endgame kind of made them creatively spent. So I'm sure they don't want that to happen with these next two movies. And then back in December of 2024, Chris Evans, Anthony Mackie, and Haley Atwell were set to appear in the film. Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson / Captain America, and Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. I know there are also reports that Marvel was wanting to have Chris Evans and Haley Atwell back in the MCU, kind of like in a different story, but they couldn't really fit it within the MCU, so they thought that bringing them back for Doomsday would probably be the best way to do it. And there was some speculation on which role that Chris Evans will be playing, whether it be Captain America or if it would be Human Torch from the Fantastic Four movies like he was in Deadpool and Wolverine. But then there were also reports by a reporter named Jeff Snyder that he might be playing the character of Nomad, which could be a possibility because I know there was like speculation way back in the Infinity War days where people were thinking that Captain America might not call himself Captain America, but he might call himself Nomad because he's not really part of the country anymore. So we'll see if that happens. I know that later Chris Evans kind of denied being in the film and that he was happily retired, but they always say that. So I'm sure like as the months go on, we'll get confirmation on whether he's in the film or not. But I'm hoping that he's in the movie, and I'm pretty sure he will, but we'll see what happens with it. And over the next coming months, other actors were set to appear in the film. Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton / Hawkeye, Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, and Tom Holland as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. And besides Anthony Mackie, I'm not really quite sure if these actors are confirmed to be in the movie. We'll get to the actors who are confirmed to be in the movie a little later down the line, but at least as far as these actors, we'll see. I'm hopeful that they're in the movie, and it would totally make sense if they were, but I guess we'll see if they're confirmed to be in the movie or not. And then back in January, filming was reported to take place from March to August, and later Joe Russo said that filming is supposed to take place within sound stages and specific locations, just to avoid set photos getting out, which totally makes sense just because it's going to be a huge movie, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of spoilers happening, and I'm sure the Russo brothers and Marvel don't want anything to get out, just because they want to keep things secret and let everything be a surprise for the audience. And then also in January of this year, Jeff Snyder also reported that Marvel Studios was looking for another actor to play a variant version of Black Panther in multiple MCU projects starting with Doomsday. But then he said in late 2024 that the actor that they're trying to offer the role to declined it, so that's too bad. I know we got that leaked concept art, which may or may not be real, for Avengers Doomsday. There's concept art of an actor who was dressed up as Black Panther and had the giant stone Black Panther carving in the background. So maybe that was the actor they offered it to, but there's been no confirmation on that, so we'll see what happens with that one. But it totally makes sense that they're trying to look for a new Black Panther. I think it was kind of a mistake to kill off T'Challa in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I think Shuri was a good replacement to be the new Black Panther, but yeah, there's definitely something missing without T'Challa in there. And I think Disney's finally learned their lesson when it comes to replacing actors. They try to do CGI recreations like in Rogue One with Peter Cushing as Tarkin, and that didn't really work. And with a younger version of Princess Leia, and then that just looked awful. And they tried to do it with Rise of Skywalker with using like deleted scenes of Carrie Fisher and try to construct scenes around it, which was kind of awkward. And then also with Black Panther with killing off T'Challa after the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, and you just felt something really missing without that character in the movie. So I think now Marvel and Disney are like, okay, we're just going to recast actors now and just have them continue on the role, just because the character is bigger than the actor who plays them, especially with a character as important as Black Panther. You kind of need that character within the future of the MCU with Doomsday and Secret Wars, any other projects he might appear in. So I'm glad they're recasting the role, and hopefully they'll announce who the actor is, and they'll do a great job at continuing the legacy that Chadwick Boseman by playing T'Challa in the MCU. And then back in February of this year, Joe Russo said that the two films were being fairly made back to back in London. So maybe they're not just working on Doomsday, but they're also working on maybe like a couple scenes here and there for Secret Wars. Maybe while they have like some of the actors available, it's like, hey, let's just jump into some scenes for Secret Wars and get those done instead of just having it all just be like one big production. They're probably just like focusing all on Doomsday and then just working on some scenes that they can get away with Secret Wars. So I guess that makes sense. But no confirmation on when they're going to officially start production on Secret Wars. But I guess if this is a way to make it easier for them as they kind of transition from one movie to the other, then yeah, totally makes sense. And then earlier this month, sort of similar to the pre-production of Infinity War and Endgame, the Russo brothers used magnetic baseball cards to keep track of what characters and actors they had for the films, which totally makes sense just because they're going to have so many different characters and so many different actors available for these movies. And I know there are reports that there might be at least like 60 characters in it, which totally makes sense, just based on all the characters that appeared in Multiverse Saga and the characters from the Infinity Saga were possibly going to appear in this movie. And I know Kevin Feige was saying that not all the characters who appeared in the Multiverse Saga will appear in Doomsday. Again, based on the cast list that they had, it seems like they're probably going to save some characters for Secret Wars just because that's going to be like the grand finale of this Multiverse Saga. And Doomsday is kind of like the setup for that. Kind of like with Infinity War and Endgame, like not all the characters from Endgame appeared in Infinity War. So yeah, it totally makes sense. They're trying to tell like one good story within Doomsday, with a certain amount of characters. And then, that'll definitely lead into Secret Wars, which will be like the grand finale. So you gotta have all the characters back in there, plus some new ones. So yeah, it totally makes sense. And then also this month, Joe Russo described Dr. Doom as being a three-dimensional character and that he's one of the most complex comic book characters, and felt that Robert Downey Jr. was the perfect person to take on the role. And I know we talked about the casting previously, But yeah, it totally makes sense to have Robert Downey Jr. back in the MCU just because he's such a huge part of the MCU, especially with the Infinity Saga as being Tony Stark / Iron Man, and the fact that he died at the end of Endgame. And for all of Phase 4 and 5 so far, you kind of felt that absence. And I'm sure like the filmmakers felt like they just needed his presence back in the MCU. And I'm sure they didn't want to resurrect Tony Stark and then kind of like undercut, the big sacrifice that he made at the end of Endgame. So it's probably one of the reasons why Kevin Feige and Steve McFeely were trying to find a good story to pitch to Robert Downey Jr. to get him come back. And of course, for Robert Downey Jr. to pitch to the Russo brothers to have them come back in order to direct the movies because he felt like they were the only ones who could do it. And then speaking of which, apparently Robert Downey Jr. developed his own backstory for the character as reference for his performance and also contributed costume ideas. So I think it's really cool that Robert Downey Jr. is taking this role seriously and, he's not doing it for the paycheck, although that might be another motivation for him to take on the role. But I'm glad that he's really taking this part seriously, just because Dr. Doom is such a complex character in the comic books, and that I'm glad that he's creating more backstory just because there's so much rich history with Dr. Doom. It totally makes sense that, an actor of his caliber would want to take that on and make him, like as the Russo brothers said, like a three-dimensional character and, make him like even deeper than Thanos maybe. So yeah, it definitely gets me excited that Kevin Feige, the Russos, Stephen McFeely, Robert Downey Jr. just care about this character so much and that they want to see him, be the best he can be for Doomsday and for Secret Wars as the main antagonist. And then also this month, the Russo brothers described these two movies as being a new beginning for the MCU. So I thought that was really big news right there because at first I thought that Doomsday and Secret Wars were going to kind of be not only the conclusion to the multiverse saga, but just a conclusion to the MCU. I know that the MCU would still continue on everything, but like I figured, how do you get bigger than Secret Wars? But I know Marvel's been introducing a lot of new characters within the multiverse saga and that, they're introducing all these, younger characters. I'm sure they want to grow within the MCU and kind of create a whole new generation of heroes. So yeah, it totally makes sense. I'm sure like Doomsday and Secret Wars would kind of be like the end of like the rest of the OG MCU characters, all the ones who kind of survived from Endgame, who've been around since the Infinity Saga, and that after this will be the new beginning for the multiverse saga characters. So yeah, it totally makes sense. It's just kind of like a lot to wrap my mind around, just because we've been watching these movies since 2008, and this seemed like the perfect kind of conclusion for the MCU with Doomsday and Secret Wars. But, Marvel's got to make that money, and, I'm sure they want to continue all these storylines and that they set up within the multiverse saga, and, hopefully they're good. I know Marvel Phase 4 and 5 have been kind of up and down, so hopefully with wrapping up Phase 5 with Thunderbolts and with Ironheart, Phase 6 will just hit the ground running, with all these great titles that I've been talking about previously, and, they can make something great with this whole new beginning of the MCU. So we'll see what happens with it. I just know we still have a long way to go, after Secret Wars, and see how that ends and how this kind of opens the door for brand new stories. But yeah, I'm still excited, and we'll see what happens with it. And then on to the big news. On March 26th, Marvel announced that Avengers Doomsday was starting filming. And then coinciding with the announcement, Marvel released a 5-hour live stream on social media showing a line of director's chairs with the names of cast members on them. And there's just so many cast members they introduced, I'm just going to read them off my laptop right here. Chris Hemsworth, Vanessa Kirby, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Letitia Wright, Paul Rudd, Wyatt Russell, Tenoch Huerta Mejia, Evan Moss Backrack, Simu Liu, Florence Pugh, Kelsey Grammer, Louis Pullman, Danny Ramirez, Joseph Quinn, David Harbour, Winston Duke, Hannah John Kamen, Tom Hiddleston, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romaine, James Marsden, Channing Tatum, Pedro Pascal, and then the video ended with Robert Downey Jr. turned to the camera and going like, shh, standing up from his chair and then walking away. And then on the Instagram post it said, it all ends with doom. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then on the live stream, every 12 minutes, a new chair would be revealed, and I definitely did not watch the live stream. I kind of chimed in every so often and kind of fast forward until they got to a new chair with a cast member name that was released, so I thought that was really cool. But then they ended up just releasing a video after the live stream ended with the camera doing it continuously with all the director's chairs, revealing all the cast members' names, and then ending on Robert Downey Jr., which was also accompanied by music from previous MCU projects that the cast member appeared in, including the Avengers theme, which was composed by Alan Silvestri, who's confirmed to be the composer for Doomsday and Secret Wars. But yeah, just to jump into the cast members that were confirmed, most of the cast members totally make sense. Most of the OG Avengers and most of the heroes that appeared in Marvel Phase 4 and 5. But I think what gets me excited most is the actors who were announced that appeared in previous X-Men movies, like Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Kelsey Grammer, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romaine, James Marsden. I was totally surprised to see that. I know that Marvel's been trying to get X-Men characters within the MCU, for a while now, and that a couple of the characters, like Patrick Stewart, Kelsey Grammer, we've seen in previous MCU projects. But it's really cool that we're getting the announcement that those actors will actually be appearing in Doomsday, which totally makes sense since this is the multiverse saga. We're going to see different characters from these different universes
just pop up. And it's really cool to see like Channing Tatum in there, because I know like got that small appearance of him in Deadpool and Wolverine, which is kind of like a reference to the fact that Channing Tatum was announced to be Gambit, way back in the day, the whole like Fox slate of movies and everything like that, and then never happened. So Ryan Reynolds decided to put him in Deadpool and Wolverine, just as a little tip of the hat to all the fans and everything. But it's really cool that he's actually going to be officially within the MCU as Gambit. So I'm really excited to see that. I'm not sure if we'll see like Jennifer Gardner or Wesley Snipes in this movie too, but I think that might be a little too much. But we'll see. Maybe they'll appear in Secret Wars. And the fact that Liz Pullman is confirmed to be in this movie too kind of confirms my theories that Sentry is actually going to survive and maybe be converted to a good guy and actually join the Thunderbolts at the end of the movie. We'll see. The movie hasn't come out yet, and a lot of people are kind of like complaining of like, oh, this is kind of like a spoiler for Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. Like none of these characters like die and everything like that, and they survive. It's like, well, of course not. These are like their debut movies. They're not going to just kill off these main characters right away. They're going to kind of set them up in these movies and then kind of use them in the next Avengers movie. So yeah, that totally makes sense. But yeah, overall, I'm really excited about these casting announcements. I'm excited the fact that Avengers Doomsday is now in production. And yeah, I know they're trying to keep a lot of things secret, but hopefully maybe by the end of filming, we'll start to get some official set photos and official character descriptions and official like plot points and everything like that, as the months go on, leading up to May of 2026, which is going to be a big month, with Mandalorian and Grogu coming out that same month as well. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the movie's good. And yeah, I can't wait to see that first trailer and see like the interaction of the characters and see what storylines that the Russos and Kevin Feige and Steve McFeely and Marvel have in mind. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And yeah, just sort of wrap all this up. Just want to say that I'm really excited for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know we've kind of had a lot of ups and downs since the end of Endgame, and a lot of hits and misses with the different movies and TV shows, and a lot of like overcrowding and a lot of like hit or miss with all the quality that we've been getting as well. But yeah, I'm glad that Marvel kind of took a break for the year of 2024 and just had just a couple of TV shows and like one movie to release, and that now they kind of took the time to make all the movies and TV shows really good and make the story more consistent and not to have all this kind of convoluted storytelling and like hit or miss quality, but yeah, actually tell like an overall story and do a lot of rearranging, a lot of shuffling of different projects and ideas. But I think it was all worth it. And yeah, just like all the stuff I've been talking about earlier, all the different projects that have been announced that are coming up and everything just gets me excited again for Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm glad that they have like different banners that they have for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Marvel Studios, Marvel Television, Marvel Animation, and then Marvel Spotlight, just so that people don't feel the pressure of watching every single thing in order to get what's going on within the MCU. But yeah, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to see. And if you watch it, great. If you don't watch it, it's not going to hurt anything. So yeah, I'm glad that they decided to kind of divide and conquer out the MCU as far as that way. And yeah, it looks like Kevin Feige and all the different heads of the departments really kind of learned that lesson from what happened with Marvel Phase 4 and a little bit of Phase 5. I'm glad that Bob Chapek's finally out and we're not kind of like diluting the brand and everything, and like Bob Iger's kind of like seeing that and trying to help to make the MCU amazing again. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I'm really excited about the different projects that are announced. Probably not going to watch like every single thing, but from the ones that I'm really excited for, I'll definitely be in line for it in the theater or first one to watch on Disney Plus for sure. And hopefully they can kind of continue the ball rolling and continue to make the MCU, what it was back in the Infinity Saga days. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm really excited for it. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more videos. And be sure to comment below saying what movie or TV show from Marvel Phase 5 or 6 you're excited for. And I'll see you next time. Avengers, assemble.